Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Pac-12 Chat Show Live here on the Voice of College Football channel. We're excited to bring you guys an amazing show tonight, focused especially on Coach Prime and the resurgence of Colorado. So we've got some really special things for you guys tonight. First of all, we're going to start off the show by walking through where we are with each team in the Pac-12 conference. And then at about 45 minutes from now, we're going to be joined by Brian from the Boulder Daily Camera and Buff Zone to talk in depth about Coach Prime. We went out and got for you the guy, the number one expert on all things CU, and he's going to be talking to us and answering our questions and your questions about what's going on in Colorado with the rebirth and re-excitement of the Buffaloes program. Then we're also going to take a little bit of time and talk a little bit about the amazing legacy and history of Colorado. Because as we've been talking to some of you guys, we found that a lot of people don't know quite what an awesome, rich program this place really is. It's absolutely somewhere incredibly special. And I think by the time we're done, you guys are going to understand why we wanted them in the Pac-12 the whole time. So that's the plan for tonight. Let's go. After that, we're going to open it up to calls. Now, if you have questions for us about the teams we're talking about, if you want to make sure that everybody gets them, you can do a super chat or, just otherwise keep engaging in the chat. We do want to clear something up, though. We want to make sure that everybody has a good experience here. And we want to make sure that our guests, like particularly Brian and folks like that come on, are treated respectfully. So we kind of have like two real basic third grade standards we want to make sure are adhered to during the show tonight for everybody in the chat. First, be interesting and add value. Like, don't just be a troll. Second, this is real easy. Don't be a dick and keep it to the Pac-12. Again, there's a lot of other places you can go if you want to like blabber about Ohio State. This is not the place. So as always, no personal attacks on guests, callers, or other chatters. No incessant and worthless trolling and whining, and absolutely no derogatory or discriminatory nonsense. Pretty basic. We are going to stick to adhering to that, though. So, guys, Coach Prime is in Colorado. We're going to talk more about it in a minute, but I just want to get from you guys, what are your just quick takes on this just momentous hire here for the Pac-12?
I got to be honest, when I heard it, I didn't believe it. I thought someone was messing with me. Now, that's not a slight on CU or anything at all. I just thought that Coach Prime was waiting for, like an absolute top program. I was thinking maybe somewhere in the Southeast locationally, maybe somewhere in a high conference like the SEC. But Colorado and what they have and what I've been reading on Colorado, and we all know from Colorado's history, we know how great that can be. It may not be. There's a lot of recency bias that people look at Colorado and don't realize what it can be very quickly with a coach like Coach Prime. But I got to be honest. Initially, I was like, huh? And I think most people that are honest, they're probably thinking the same thing. But but reading and just doing a little walking down memory lane and realizing, the Rashawn Salams, the national championships, the actual, Cordell Stewart kind of guys. I think with his recruiting and with his passion, they're going to be a powerhouse almost overnight.
Likewise, totally surprised. We heard, rumors that he was looking at some different programs. I think one was even ASU, and Colorado was mentioned. But I for one, didn't think he was going to come out here. I thought maybe Georgia Tech would be a program he would look at, but they hired their interim, and but as Tim mentioned, Colorado's history, that there is potential there, but were they fully integrated? Did they have buy-in from their board, the president, the AD? Nobody really knew because we had it on our graphics. Colorado's been a dumpster fire all year, but credit to Colorado and Rick George, and we'll hear more of that. Excited to have Brian Howell from the Daily Camera, who, if you're not following him, you want to give him a follow. I dropped it in the chat. It's on Twitter at Brian Howell, HOWELL 33. And he is on top of everything. He's going to be joining us at 8:30. So excited to have him to break it down. Chris?
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
that's sort of like that kind of touches on one of the questions I'm most excited to ask him is I think like this, the idea of being, what Colorado was seen as this year. I can't imagine that like donor buy-in is very high at that moment in time, and how quickly they've seen even things like like funding and donations and whatnot go up just off of the immediate like excitement around the hire itself.
I saw something Brian tweeted out, or he tweeted out information from the school that it was either Monday or Tuesday was the highest grossing merchandise day, like nearly 50 grand in merchandise in one day of CU stuff. So good for them. They're getting a buzz, and go Buffs.
And we're gonna talk a lot more as we get, like I said, we're gonna go through all the other teams, and then with Brian from the Boulder Daily Camera, we're gonna talk about Colorado, and we're gonna talk about some of the wild and rich history of Colorado's past and the role that Coach Prime is gonna play in it. And if you guys don't recognize the characters here, we're gonna talk a little bit about who they are and why they are an important part of the history of college football. And there's some pretty cool characters in there we're gonna be digging into. So, guys, let's dig in, which is going to get really exciting here. And let's start taking a look at where we are with each team right now, kind of doing a kind of look back and look ahead. And starting here with coachless Stanford, with players gushing to the transfer portal. What is going on the farm?
It's not good, is it? It might be good for UCLA, but and Chip and Shaw are boys a little bit, because regardless of what you think of a team as a whole, there's always individuals on those teams that can help other places. Part of why Colorado struggled so much the past year, right, was that they were just absolutely raided in the transfer portal, and it looks like that's what's going to happen to Stanford this year. And I don't know if it's going to get this extreme. I don't know what their total numbers are, but I kind of wonder at one point if it gets so bad for a team, at what number of players, like scholarship players on your team, does it become like too difficult to even field the team for that year? I'm not saying it's that far, but like at a certain point you kind of worry about that, right?
You can ask USC in 2012 and 2013. But yeah, not having the guys to compete and everyone leaving your program, especially when you lose a coach, right? The winningest coach in Stanford history. When he goes, it's going to leave a huge void. You're already seeing the offensive linemen just entering the portal and players leaving. Like you said, we were able to get Blackman at USC last year from the portal. And it was huge getting him and Brendan Rice, arguably their best receiver as well. So when this kind of discord happens, you're losing players. It's making a bad situation worse. And it's going to be interesting how they get that program, the Cardinal program, revitalized.
Yeah, I just saw a linebacker committed to Utah, jumped in the portal, and so Utah is going to get a great player. Very smart player, kind of similar to what happened with SC. We picked up Austin Jones, and I think they have 17 players that are, last time I checked, were in the portal. There's going to be more. Big turnover there, and obviously Stanford has some decisions to make on a university level, and that's part of, I think, why David Shaw may have left, is because he saw the change in college football, and he probably realized he couldn't compete at the same level, and it was basically a no-win situation. So Stanford has to decide if they are going to have some changes in their admission requirements and or for grad transfers, and when it comes to NIL. So we'll have to wait and see. That can be a great job, but as it currently is constituted, not so much.
Yeah, the grad situation there, grad school admissions, is something that's killing them, right, Rick? I mean, there's
Yeah.
no ifs, ands, and buts about it. That needs to be fit. If they want to play Division I football, they got to make a decision. Do we want to drop down division and keep what we're doing, or do we want to join the rest of the country and play Division I football?
Now, there's another school that has had a lot of the same problems as Stanford as far as making it very, very hard to transfer people in. And that is the University of Colorado, who made a decision to change that rather quickly. Do you guys think can Colorado be an influence for Stanford to be like, wow, it turns out it is easy to fix our problems?
I think Stanford's going to do what Stanford wants to do.
And Stanford has always done what Stanford wants to do, just to be clear. Oh, all right. So we move on to the next up to bat. ASU. All right. So since we chatted last, Arizona State got a head coach. Kenny Dillingham has come into ASU. He's started to hire some coordinators, started to put some staff together. He's got donors pumping millions into the program. Guys, what's going on in the Valley of the Sun?
I think that's a great young, energetic, just very forward-looking hire.
Yeah, one of the bright spots in a really good season for Oregon was the offense, and I'll be the first one to admit when I said, but the throw picks and who is Dillingham? Yeah, I mean he's hot, but let's see when he gets in, start playing some Pac-12 football. We'll see how well he does, and he exceeded expectations, and clearly to a level where he's now looking at a head coaching position. There's a lot of turmoil there. Talked about the portal. I think they're going to live and die by the portal. I'm sure he's going to pull in some great offensive players, but will he be able to get some guys on defense to make them competitive in year one?
Yeah, he's a young, energetic coach. He's starting to assemble his staff right now. He's got AJ Cooper, linebackers coach. He's keeping Sean Aguano as the running backs coach.
That's a great idea, I think.
He's got, so going to get some continuity. They've got respect. The players really gravitated to Sean Aguano. Rashad Samples is going to be working wide receivers and overseeing the passing game. And Saga Tuatele is pegged to be the offensive line coach. So there's some young, energetic talent coming in to accompany Dillingham. He is an ASU grad. The guy's got passion. He's young. And there's some opportunity for them to sign some players in the transfer portal. I'm sure he's reached out or is reaching out to DJ, who recently went into the portal, because he's got Bo Nix. He reshaped Bo Nix's career, and that's right now what DJ needs. In fact, I saw on Twitter that DJ was at ASU. He's got the forks up. So look for Dillingham to find a quarterback that is going to be able to bring other pieces to ASU, and they're going to be a force. Again, they've been the notorious sleeping giant for 40 years. So maybe Kenny can wake them up, stick a fork in them.
I like it. I think you guys are right. I worry that he doesn't have the athletic department around him. But then I'm worried about Colorado too. And they did that. They showed that they are ready to make that commitment. So I think we'll see the same with ASU.
Well, I think that, Tony, the thing too is this is great on behalf of Colorado because they are raising the bar. This is like back to back now. USC raised the bar. People took notice. Look at Washington. Washington made a great hire. Now, out of nowhere, Colorado hires Coach Prime, and now ASU better get their leadership together.
I would argue, LBC, not only are you right on that, but we saw, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in a little bit, but we saw ASU, we saw Arizona raise the bar on their mess. Mm-hmm. We've seen Oregon State raise the bar on their mess. We've seen Utah take their bar and was already high and raise it more. We just in half the conference, I think we've seen some pretty amazing stuff. Which is good. Actually, we got a comment coming from Larry as soon as it pops up. Larry, I absolutely agree with you on this. Larry says, and Larry, as always, thank you for helping support the channel. Larry points out the Pac-12 is about to become unrecognizable from a short time ago, already going in that direction. Larry, I think you are 100% right on that.
Yeah, and Larry Pilgrim, I don't want to besmirch your name, but I'll call him Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott was asleep at the wheel. All this should have happened 5 to 6 years ago. We're probably looking at a much healthier Pac-12 going forward than we have right now. Since Kliavkoff came in, I don't think it's by any mistake that, I know there was a media deal coming up for the Pac-12, but I think this is by design. I think there were some backroom meetings where he's saying, hey, look, you guys, I can't make chicken salad out of chicken, you know what? He's like, you guys got to do something. And we started seeing some athletic director changes. We started seeing some coaching hires and some movement, and it's coming. We need Stanford to get a really good coaching here. And then the Pac-12 coaches across the board are going to be solid. I just can't tell you guys how much Coach Prime coming to the Pac-12 is just going to change the national perception. With the way we're winning with these coaches now, I'm hearing guys on national shows talk about Pac-12 coaching. That's what I heard a couple of times in the past couple of weeks. When was the last time you heard that? Right? So it's being recognized, and these future additions, including a huge splash Colorado made with Coach Prime, is going to continue to make the Pac-12 picture look a lot clearer.
Yeah, and Tim, I'll tell you something I noticed about Colorado. Did you see the meeting Coach Prime had with his team? We'll talk about this more in a minute. Yeah. So I looked very carefully. And you know how many players I could actually pick out in that meeting that I recognized who they were? One.
Handful. Yeah.
One. They needed that. And hold on. You guys, we have some outrage, some fighting words here. ND, I think we're gonna have to block him. No, I'm just kidding.
A lot of people were happy with Larry Scott, Helton, and what Swan had going, but in the end, it wasn't the best thing in the world.
Notre Dame loved what Larry Scott and Clay Howell did to the Trojans.
Coach Helton,
by the way, we're just teasing. We love Will.
Coach Helton won a Rose Bowl, put some respect on his name, build the statue outside of Heritage Hall already, and move on.
That's true. All right,
Chris, you're absolutely right. Helton did win a Rose Bowl against Penn State and James Franklin. So the bar has been set for Utah. A lot of fans on Utah. The bravado is out on Twitter talking smack. Congratulations, winning back-to-back Pac-12 championship. You came up short with the Rose Bowl to the mighty Ohio State Buckeyes last year. You got to beat James Franklin. And Clay Helton beat James Franklin. So the onus is on you if you want to get credibility.
LBC with the zinger.
Because outside the Pac-12, they really don't care about Utah. You know what Florida thinks of Utah? You know what the SEC thinks about Utah? You pissed down your leg. That's what they think about Utah. Is you couldn't hack it in the swamp. So, yes, congratulations. You kicked USC's butt. You beat us twice. I'm not crying. I'm just telling you how it is. The next level is winning national games that matter. So, Larry Pilgrim, round up your Utes, and you better win that Rose Bowl. James Franklin's a paper Penn State Nittany Lion. They're 10-2, and they don't have any quality wins. Their best games are losing to Ohio State and Michigan. That's Big Ten football.
It's true.
And really quickly, though, Chris, you are right, though, because you know what? Usually USC is one of the leaders in the Pac-12, but they're grossly behind. There are actually 11 schools that have a statue of Helton in front of their athletic departments. So it's about time USC gets one out there, too.
I'm sorry.
Clay Helton was the best coach Notre Dame had.
Yeah, it's right. I'm sure it's right next to the Jackie Robinson
LBC,
John Wooden
bring the heat.
Bring the heat, man. You know it, Gumby.
Bringing the heat. Yeah. I love it. You guys, we're having fun. We're having fun tonight. Coach,
win a big national game.
As always, Will brings us a little bit of wisdom. Coach Helton was your Ty Willingham. It's true. All right. All right, I love it. We went off the rails. We're having fun here. We're having fun. You guys are fun you guys are having fun in the chat tonight. I love it. Guys, Cal Berkeley, what is going on in Strawberry Canyon?
So if you wanted to give the positive response that keeps you at the big kids table for Christmas in a couple of weeks, you'd say that they lost 5 games by less than a touchdown or by single digits. And that Wilcox is probably a better coach than he gets credit for, especially on the side of the ball that he controls. But the offensive side, and they have, they are making some changes there, an offensive coordinator and offensive line. So we'll see what happens. But if you were wanting to take the flip side of that, you would say, well, those 5 games that they lost by, single digits, they did the exact same thing last year and lost 5 games by single digits. Maybe that's just who they are. I personally do think, one, I don't know that they have the money to go out and get someone else, high name and spend a ton of money on a new head coach, even if they wanted to. But I do actually think that Wilcox is a good coach, and I do think that they play like pretty good, disciplined football. I think that their issue is from like a talent acquisition and retention standpoint, and getting that offense to do more than it has, in the last couple of years, because the defense plays decent, especially in a conference that doesn't have a lot of great defenses. There's something there, and I don't think that they're tremendously far away given by how many close games they've lost over the last 2 years, but they're dangerously in a spot of going even further down the conference if Arizona State and Colorado get their act together and Jedd Fisch keeps doing what he's been doing in Arizona and showing constant improvement over time. So I think it's a big year for Cal next year to finally do something on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, but even Cal's defense, Chris, if we're really being honest, they were in the bottom half of defenses. And usually when I think of a Wilcox Cal defense, I'm thinking they're going to be up there a little higher. I think they need to focus on, they got some young talent, right? Jalen Otts is an awesome young guy to build.
Yeah, the real quick problem with that is I'm sure that everyone in the country is whispering sweet nothings in that kid's ear right now.
Well, I'm not lying. I keep checking the portal. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I mean, they just had a transfer. One of their better linebackers just transferred to UCLA, and then they got in. Yeah, I'm sure they got to hold on to who they've got and try to build on it. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, you're right there. But they're similar to USC in their scoring defense and I was surprised when I was doing a little bit looking at some numbers and their yardage, which again matched up with we need to see from Cal. I mean, I remember they weren't always the most talented. They had some talent, but man, when I used to talk to players and stuff, when I was going to school there, they would talk about how nasty the Cal offensive line was. I mean, just nasty dudes.
They were good.
You know what I mean? And then they really need to get some of that. If you can't get the top talent, we need to see some of those mauling Cal defensive lines and offensive lines again, because you guys tend to get the skill position guys. It's just those lines. If we really want to get Cal back to where they should be, I really need some work in the trenches.
And by the way, I love the phrase bear raid.
Yeah, Cal recently hired a new offensive coordinator from Texas State. I believe it was Jake Spavital. So, as you know, Cal struggled on offense. The Wilcox is a defensive-minded coach, has already been touched upon. They've always had a pretty good D, solid D, but the offense was just struggling behind an offensive line that never found its identity. They have great skill players in Jaden Ott at running back. They had the transfer Jack Plummer coming in for Purdue, and they've got some good wide receivers. But they need a new offensive identity. Musgrave ran its course. So Cal's upgrading in that respect. Although, losing, I'm gonna attempt this right now. Olufemi Oladejo to UCLA. He's a top linebacker. I think he led the team with like 90 plus tackles. I was hoping USC would get this guy. I watched him play several games with Cal, and the guy always stood out during the game. So congratulations, Chris. You guys picked up a solid linebacker. And that's got to hurt Cal because that guy is like the glue in the middle of their defense. But hey, look for Cal to get things figured out. They're taking their steps, but they can only have a more positive season next year, 5-7. And unfortunately, one of those losses was to Colorado.
And John points out Slovis and Daniels are available.
That's right.
Should they be quarterback hunting? Guys, a team that had a really good season this year. Couple of big wins. Couldn't quite pull off a couple of close ones. What do we think about Wazoo Cougars?
Cougars are great, man. Cougars are they had a fantastic season, 7-5. They lost close games to the top teams in the Pac-12. I think the game that kind of changed their fortune or was misfortune was that game up in the Palouse early in the year to Oregon. They were ahead by 12 with just under, I think, 5 minutes to go, and they end up losing that game. And so that's kind of what happens with young teams. And they had they got the transfer quarterback Cam Ward from Incarnate Word, the FCS school, and that was early in the year. I think he's gotten better, but he needs to improve to keep up with the level of quarterbacking in the Pac-12. I mean, let's hear it for the Pac-12. Pac-12 has the best quarterbacks, top to bottom, in any other conference. You can go ahead and argue if you're the Big Ten, ACC, SEC, or Big 12, but it really doesn't matter. In fact, I think the ACC has 5 or 6 of their quarterbacks in the transfer portal. So what does that tell you? But Washington State is going to be taking the next step. They've got to take the next step and win those games against the teams like Oregon, Oregon State, USC, although they won't be playing USC next year, but the top teams in the conference.
Yeah, and I think you hit on the head. I totally agree with you, Rick, when you talk about that game they lost up at the Palouse. That game really looked like it was theirs. And I won't use the phrase everyone uses because I know it hurts, especially when bringing it up when you talk about that game. But they somehow seized the feet, right? And it did hurt. I did derail them, but they lost to the teams. They had no embarrassing losses, right? They lost to the teams that we thought that they would be competitive games. And they fought hard. I mean, they played well in all the games. There was close games, USC, right? Close game against Oregon. They won the Apple Cup and they beat Washington, which was huge. So when you look at a season and you need things to go right, go your way, it looked like they were sorry, Apple Cup. They lost they lost the Apple Cup. But I mean, with the games that you want to win, they won, the ones that you expect to win. Where they struggle is getting the talent. I think the talent level with Ward coming in, usually the young guy like that, he's a gunslinger. He had a lot of turnovers. They cleaned up those turnovers and they'd protect him. The difference between Washington and Washington State, even in that game, is look at the offensive lines at Washington compared to Washington State. The kid had no time to throw on most of those plays. He was getting sacked and made him make some really bad decisions late in the game when they were down. So.
I think a bowl game for a team like this is way more important than it is for maybe other teams because the extra weeks of practice that you're getting, like going into next year, and the momentum that you build off of that with a guy that's still in his first year as the head coach going into the second is pretty invaluable. Whereas other teams, granted, Utah's playing in the Rose Bowl. If you take Utah, for example, say they weren't playing in the Rose Bowl and they were playing a lesser bowl, those extra 2 weeks of practice before you go into the next year, aren't going to really change what Whittingham is doing or getting more people to be even more familiar with your system, et cetera, et cetera. But it really can actually do a lot for them, going into next year, getting these extra weeks of practice. So the Cougs were awesome, and I wish them well in their bowl game.
Yeah, they're playing the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl And that's going to be a good game against Fresno State. Fresno State's a quality team, 8-4. They won the Mountain West by beating Boise State up at Boise, and this is a good measuring stick because Oregon State did beat Fresno State, and so did USC. So if Washington State wants to be that team on the rise, they've got to go out there and they got to beat Fresno State. Another positive for Washington State, a young team in their second game or their third game, I believe it's the second game, traveled to Wisconsin, beat Wisconsin at Camp Randall, and played their brand of football, winning a close game 17-14. So at the time, fans were saying, well, Wisconsin's down, they're bad. They played in a weak Big Ten West Conference, but Wisconsin 6-6, they're going bowling. They're playing Oklahoma State in a bowl. So as bad as that loss was, and the Big Ten fans were discounting it, hey, that Wisconsin team's a bowl team. So that kind of makes the win a little bit bigger, a little bit more significant than it did at the time. So good luck to the Cougs.
And I still can't get over, people don't appreciate, last year Wazoo had to fire half their coaching staff, including their head coach, in the middle of the season. I don't know if we've ever seen a team have to fire, and it was for compliance reasons, have to fire half their coaching staff and still go on to be as successful as they are, have more changes like they've had, and have a great season. I give hats off to the Cougs on a pretty strong season this year. Now, a team that is definitely really on the up, guys. What about the Cats in the Desert?
I'd really like their wide receiver to come to UCLA.
Hands off, we need him in LA.
The doors are open for Singer because that guy is amazing. But they did, and the name escapes me, their other great wide receiver is staying there. We've talked about it a lot all year, right? And I think that everyone thinks that Jed Fish is moving in the right direction year over year. Eventually, right, this being the third year, the saying at UCLA with Chip Kelly used to be like, oh, bamboo doesn't grow at all until like the third or fourth year, and then it skyrockets up, right? And so eventually for Jed Fish, the bamboo has to grow. We can't get in the year like 4 and still say like, yeah, he's building something, right? So I do think it has to transition eventually, but like if you're an Arizona fan, you have to be excited about the foundation that's been laid and what you've seen, what you've seen improvement wise in the program and on the field over the last 2 years. And hope, and I think the hope is that next year you finally make the next step up into the middle of the conference. And honestly, you've been good enough to do it last year. You've shown glimpses. You beat UCLA. You gave SC all it wanted. It's just about making that next step, more
than it wanted.
Yeah.
Right. Making that next step and being consistent while doing it.
Yeah, Arizona can afford to lose Singer because they have McMillan, who's just he was definitely on one of the All Pac-12 teams, right? Definitely a freshman All Pac-12 player, and Cowing, both those guys. And then the big thing here is you're going to get a whole nother year of Jaden DeLora. He's going to just have one more year under him. He's just such an amazing quarterback. He just makes magic happen. You really can't count that guy out on any play. Jed Fish, again, what he's doing with his offense, that's not really his biggest surprise as it is that how he's recruiting and how he recruited California recently. T-Mac was a guy that pretty much everybody in the Pac-12 wanted, and he went there and grabbed him. And I really do like the way I called it in the game. The way Wiley ran in the Territorial Cup. He just was like he is a talent as well. So they have the offensive place, but here's the side, Wildcats. We've seen your defense And when you have Pac-12 teams calling out your defense, because we don't have that many, when you have other teams calling out your defense, you really have to kind of take a look at what you're doing. The Wildcats defensively were just ahead of the Buffaloes, who gave up 500 yards a game. They gave up 467 yards a game. But I don't care how good your offense is. You gotta sort that defense out. Otherwise, it's gonna be a little more of what we got here. A good team, but you can't score enough points with a defense like that.
Arizona is this year's Colorado for next year. So Arizona got themselves a bright young coach. He had a good signing class. He brought in some 5-star talent in McMillan from Servite, which wasn't like imaginable, but Jed Fish credited him. The offensive side of the ball is solid. And Delora was a great pickup in the portal. Delora had a better season. He showed growth from the last season to Washington State, and he'll continue. If they're going to be successful, they're going to continue. Proud heritage at Arizona, Desert Swarm. It's had that pedigree of winning in the past, but it's been in the past. I think you're seeing Arizona improve tremendously from 1 win to 5 wins. They're no more the laughing stock. And this year, you're going to see Arizona, much like USC has to, they have to address the defensive side of the ball. There's only so much you can do in 1 year. I think offensively, they did some great things and will continue to do great things. It's what are you going to do on the defensive side of the ball so you can take that next step. I think they got to be happy. They won the Territorial Cup. They beat ASU 5-7. They upset UCLA. That shows promise for the future. Very close to becoming a bowl team, and nobody would have given Arizona a chance becoming a bowl team this year. So let's see how they address the defensive side of the ball and how they move forward.
And I mean, he didn't get any kind of awards, but I just looked it up. He led all true freshmen in the nation with McMillan, that is, with 702 yards. This guy is going to be a star in our league for sure.
All right. I really agree with you guys. And Jed Fish took over a program that was as low as it can get and has been building them up. And, doesn't have necessarily all the advantages that Lincoln Riley had or Coach Prime had. He's sort of doing it the old school way, and it's working and it's exciting. And I think it's good to see them back. Now, how about we're going to make some folks here in the chat happy. Let's talk about the Beavs.
We're going to make me really happy. The squad right here came one short.
Do you still win your bet? Does the bowl win count as the 10th?
As the 10th win? No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, it had to be regular season win, so that SC and Washington kind of haunt me for that. Huge win right
that
there.
Is gonna haunt you.
But it's all right because the Beavs had a great year and should be super proud of their squad. I love that Jonathan Smith is finally getting the recognition, getting Pac-12 Coach of the Year. More and more people are realizing what a great job that guy is doing with that Oregon State program. And and it's great that it's a guy that wants to be there and went there. And, in terms of being able to hold on to him, because I think you'd hear a lot more names, a lot more knocking on the door would be a lot louder if it wasn't someone that didn't have ties to your school. But yeah, no, the Beavs, what is there not to say? It's 9-3. Great year with very close losses to Washington and SC that could have put them over the hump and to even crazier things. But they're going to have to settle to going to Vegas and avenging the Utah loss for the conference by smacking the Gators around come bowl season time. Yeah,
when we think of Jonathan Smith, right, ex-quarterback for the Beavs, and we think about that offense, that offensive veteran offensive line. But I've been saying it all year, and I only picked against Oregon State one time the entire year, and that was when SC played them up at Research. Even then, I wasn't sure. They're an awesome team. What he's doing there in 5 years is truly amazing. They were second in the Pac-12 in defense, and I don't think a lot of these teams and these fans around the nation just know how good this B defense is. They can be stout, and next to Utah are just basically the class defenses in the entire conference. So I'm happy with them. I know Chance Nolan went into the portal, but I didn't see any really major issues as far as Oregon State. Hey, who knows? Maybe that means that they might actually be getting JT in this game, round two. JT round 2 might be coming with his, what was it, Tony? A house and a chef and
a house, a cook, and a little bit of money. Somebody said they were asking. Somebody said to me, I saw it on Twitter. They said, do you think it was worth the money? Do you think it was what do you think we'd spend the money? I said, well, you would have beaten USC, you'd have beaten Washington, you'd run Oregon off the field. I think you absolutely should have done it, and I think that Oregon State should go and call a realtor and hire a cook this afternoon.
So, Tim, really quick to your point, like I feel like the fact that they didn't have great quarterback play, right, and they still went 9-3 and gave SC and Washington like really close games, who were two of the top teams in the conference. Like, there's an argument that it's the most complete team in the conference, except for the fact that they don't have quarterback play, right? I mean, I'm sure Utah fans would argue that one with me, and there's other, and they'd have a good argument, right?
Very good argument,
But it's more about just wanting to like reiterate how good this Beavers team was. Like without one of, they went 9-3 in a conference where their quarterback play was bottom quarter.
Yeah. Well, Larry and Utes, let me ask you a question. Why don't you guys switch quarterbacks with Oregon State? How do you think your season and their season would have turned out? We would have seen them probably as the Pac-12 champs, right? And I don't know if you got that hot, fast, young running.
That's going to be hard for Utah fans to believe, given what happened in Utah against these two teams.
That was a bit of a murder. There was,
but I hear your
call
point.
the police and report that murder.
But here's the thing: if that game was in Corvallis and Utah had to go there, the same thing could happen.
Imagine,
and I like the point, Tim. I like, give them Caleb, give them DTR, give them Penix, give them anyone that's from one of those top six, any of those top 6 guys, and they probably beat SC, they probably beat Washington. They're like 11-1 playing in the conference championship game.
I'm sure Caleb would have loved to have that offensive line. I'll tell you that right now. So I mean, so they well, that's not fair. We had to get off it, but I will say that they are. I guarantee they're shopping around the portal for a quarterback. That's all I'm gonna say. I know people are high late in the year, but literally. But I think that if they get that quarterback, that house and the chef and a little bit of pocket money, that would have been worth a Pac-12 championship. You guys would have been right there with anybody if you had the right quarterback. So great job, Beavs. I can't wait to see. Do not let us down you guys do not let us down the bowl season, Pac-12.
Yeah.
And if you follow the illogical SEC transitive property rules, Oregon State could win the Pac-12 by beating Florida.
Let's give credit to their freshman running back of the year.
Yeah, Martinez.
Damian Martinez, solid. Yeah. They've got a great running back. They got Jam Griffin. He's also, I think, a redshirt sophomore. They've got a great offensive line, great defense. The thing that they're missing, you guys talked about, is the quarterback. I think Jonathan Smith will get that solved. The transfer portal, there's a lot of quarterbacks out there. I think they're going to find the right one that's going to fit their system. I'm sure Jonathan Smith knows that. But you got DJ out there. You got Slovis. You got JT Daniels. There's other quarterbacks going to be going into the portal. They've got an opportunity to make a statement. Las Vegas Bowl against Florida, and hey, Florida is an average team by their standards and by SEC standards. They're 6-6, but still, They're going to have, I think, multiple players. I think up to 20, I heard, that are going to be opting out of this game. And Anthony Richardson is declared for the NFL draft. Still doesn't matter. It's the SEC. Their second and third teamers should be able to beat a weak Pac-12 team, and they don't respect the Beavers. And they've got to come across country. So you're going to have to do what all other regular college football teams do. You're going to have to travel. You have to travel to Las Vegas. Don't make excuses. Florida. I could care less if you have half of a team. It's a game. So good luck to the Beavers, and take a bite out of those Gators. Build a dam.
Well, and they have that. They're getting their offensive line back, and I'm thank God Rick's here. Thank God you brought up Martinez. I almost let that one go. Yeah, it was all about Fenwick, right? I was always worried about Fenwick when we were going up to Reeser, but this freshman came out of nowhere and just killed it. So behind, they get their whole line back. It's just gonna be amazing. It's just gonna continue.
It's gonna be interesting, and I think they really, in all honesty, just for the Pac-12 as a whole, it would certainly be nice to Utah laid an egg in the swamp. They just did. Utah laid an egg in the swamp. And as far as like the annoying SEC narrative nonsense, it would be real helpful if Oregon State could win this game. Just so we don't have to hear their crap. All right, guys. Bow down to Washington. Bum, bum, bum. Kalen DeBoer has brought the resurgent Huskies back. He's got himself a nice big new contract. Things are rocking at Husky Stadium. What do we think about the 10-2 Dogs?
I'm going to let Tim just grandstand for Penix because I think he's the number one fan in this chat of the man. But I have to be honest. Like, I remember thinking back at the beginning of the year about Washington, and we were talking about UCLA's schedule at the very, very beginning, right? And we were like, I don't know if you remember, we were saying like, oh, well, UCLA's out of conference isn't very good, and then they play Washington. So, like, they could be like 4-0 going into Utah, and we don't really know anything about them. Well, this Washington team, with their first-year head coach coming from Fresno State, turned out to be pretty damn good. And, if it's any indication of, what he did at Fresno State offensively and what they just did last year offensively with Penix, I think there's a lot to be really, really excited about as Washington fans because you're way ahead of schedule and way ahead of where people thought you would be even this year. And, I don't see any reason why it goes another direction.
Yeah, well, so I will jump on that Penix wagon. It's not just Penix; it happens with with the whole team. And but Penix averaged 362 yards a game through the air this year. To give you an idea, Caleb Williams had 361 or 362 in the championship game, and that was a championship game record. So this dude averaged that every single game all year long. I early on they really caught fire early, right? And the idea that Washington, here's the thing, I got a little confused earlier. Apple Cup, they beat that Washington State game in the Apple Cup, but they're the ones in juxtaposition to your Cougs, who didn't lose to anyone they should have lost to. The Huskies really dropped the ball and lost that game at Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe, but to an Arizona team that was really discombobulated at that time. They had no excuse to go down there and lose that game to the Sun Devils. I understand losing a close game in the Rose Bowl to the Bruins the week before. Yeah, maybe that had a lot to do with it. I'm sure it probably was a lot of guys bruised up, banged up from that game as well. But that was their season right there. You're looking at a team that loses 2 games all year, takes care of business, crushing most of the competition, going into Autzen and beating their rivals in Autzen, but losing to the Sun Devils. And that really just killed them. And this team, with Penix and the receiving core, that all year long with Polk and McMillan and Alduze, right? These guys were just lighting it up. And a big part of that was it was an awesome offense. I remember the big talk going into the season I forget his name now. The Fresno State quarterback that got hurt.
Hainer. Hainer.
Yeah, Hainer. You know, the idea that he was going to go right with, and it was going to be this big situation going to Washington. But it turns out it's because Penix is going to light it up. And what an amazing story for him coming from Indiana, you know, and being reunited and just having an amazing season. Let's face it. Anyone here, do you think that maybe he would be going to New York if they hadn't lost that game at Sun Devil Stadium? I think he probably would be going to New York this weekend. So hats off to the Huskies. Just an amazing season. And see if they can continue it up there with DeBoer.
Yeah, the Huskies season mirrors USC if you take a look at it. Both of them were 4-8. You got Lincoln Riley, you got DeBoer, offensive mind, comes from Fresno State, gets his quarterback. Nobody really people knew Penix, but you know, he was hurt. He did okay at Indiana, but he just lit it up. 10-2. They had a chance to make the Pac-12 championship, outside chance. It didn't happen. But DeBoer is a Pac-12 Coach of the Year, having an outstanding season. They get to go play in the Alamo Bowl against 7-win Sark in Texas. So don't tell me that the committee didn't love putting this one together. Sark's old team, the Huskies, and DeBoer. And we're going to take a look at Washington. Are they going to be ready to take the next step? They got a big win out of conference, beating Michigan State, just throttling them in Seattle on Montlake. And they're ready to take the next step. They're going to be competing for a Pac-12 championship. It's going to be beautiful. USC's got to play Washington next year and Oregon. And so there's going to be some great national games. The Pac-12 stepped up this year, and Washington was a big reason why. It's a disgrace that Penix is not going to New York for the Heisman. I don't think Stetson Bennett belongs there. I think a lot of people would agree. And Penix just lit it up. And kudos to DeBoer, offensive mind, and he put Penix and his receivers and his offense in the right positions, and they played an outstanding year.
Yeah, I really think they're back. I have a lot of friends from UW, and they're excited. I mean, they have the energy. It's very, very much like at USC, and it's really, really good because Husky Stadium. And we're going to talk a little bit in a little bit about a very, very famous Washington, Colorado game. You know, back when both of them were rocking and literally winning national championships in back-to-back years. And we need Washington to be powerful for the conference. And it's good for the sport. And Kalen DeBoer, hats off to him, and hats off to Jen Cohen. Because when put in a nasty situation with the whole Jimmy Lake mess and, you know, falling around her, she went and she got her coach, and she knew that he would be great. And absolutely was. So kudos to Jen Cohen on that one. All right. Quack, quack, quack. What do we think about the goings on in Eugene? One offensive coordinator short now.
I'm sure they'll be fine. And people talk about like, oh, Justin Flo's in the transfer portal, so-and-so's in the transfer portal. Oregon, yeah, people can like get excited about who comes, who goes. Their running back might leave. Like, Oregon's going to be fine, and they're going to have people, and they're still going to be good. This is a team that, you know, after that week one loss, like, you know, to their credit, they put it behind them and, you know, went on a tear. The Washington loss, you know, ended up being to a 10-win Washington team, but that doesn't really, you know, that doesn't make it any easier for Duck fans to swallow that one. Yeah, I mean, it's a team that lost 3 games, one to Georgia, one to like a very good Washington team, and one to a Oregon State team that I love. The problem for Oregon fans is, you know, the hopes that they had in the middle of the season, and then losing to your 2 biggest rivals to end the year leaves a very sour taste in your mouth. It's still a team that I would argue. I would still argue. I still think that I mean, I have them like 5th in my conference power rankings because of how things played out. But it's just as easy that they could have been the best team in the conference. It didn't play out that way, but they could have been. It'll be interesting to see in their bowl game what they come out and do against the North Carolina team that doesn't like to play very much defense. The total for that game might be in the hundreds. Who knows? But yeah, no, I think the long and short of it is it's a great team that didn't play up to the expectations that it had for itself toward the middle of the year, and has a sour taste in its mouth. But I think that they're going to be just fine going forward.
Well, I do believe they lose a lot. So here's the great thing about the good thing about the Ducks is they don't ever have a problem getting young talent, especially on offense. But they did. I hope they are replacing them because they lost a lot of offensive players that are in the portal. I mean, it's not just a couple. They lost Seven McGee, along with Cardwell and Dollars just recently entered. So I mean, I'm sure they have someone because they're Oregon. They're going to have some guys, but that's a lot of talent to lose from one room. I do think this obviously has to do with the fact that they lost Dillingham. So talent-wise, though, we know it's Oregon, and they should be able to self-correct and be okay. Oregon as a team on the year, they're towards the top of the conference in both, on offense, but their defense, I expected them to do a lot more up front than they did. They didn't, and their secondary was really, really, really bad. Again, in a conference we're talking about what our defenses we're not known for, except for probably Oregon State and Utah, how good our defenses played. I think that we still have some big question marks. They did win with Mario's players. It will be interesting to see how because I'm telling you, with Coach Prime coming in and some of the things going on, we still have some things going on before signing day. There might be some surprises. So Oregon's really shown us in the past that they can get the players. It's going to be very interesting on who they fill in for the coordinator position. But I think that they had a good year, but I think all Duck fans will have to say it was a bit disappointing.
They lost. They finished 9-3. Like you mentioned, they're going to go in the Holiday Bowl. They got a chance to show out against North Carolina. They do have about 13 players last count that were in the portal, including, Seven McGee, running back Thornton, as you mentioned, linebacker Justin Flo. But really, Dan Lanning's molding his team. He's creating his culture, and each of those players, you talk to Duck fans, they'll have their issues, right? And so they just hired Will Stein as the offensive coordinator. He was at University of Texas, San Antonio, successful team, 11-2, Conference USA champions, going to be playing in a bowl game against, who is that? Help me out, guys. It's Troy. They're going to be playing against Troy. And so question is Bo Nix going to stay? Is he going to stay or is he going to go? If he stays, I like whether he stays or goes. You've got the offensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator coming in. Oregon's going to be successful, and the guys that are going to come into the portal, don't be fooling. Dan Lanning is going to build his defense. He's going to find his players, and the Ducks will be competing for a Pac-12 championship. So there's always change, and you see this with all the great programs, whether it's Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan. Coaches come and they go. And so part of being a successful head coach is surrounding yourself with great coaches that know how to recruit and know how to coach. And, we'll find that out about Dan Lanning, but hiring Will Stein, very good move. Congrats to the Ducks. Good luck.
Yeah, I really have been impressed. Was impressed with what Bo Nix did. I was impressed with how Dan Lanning ran the program as a first-year head coach. I mean, again, Oregon has every advantage in the world as far as people, money, facilities, backers, boosters, lively, awesome, wild, rowdy fans. I mean, Oregon's got it going on. So I mean, it was a perfect situation for him to step in, but he really did a really good job with it. And hats off to the Ducks for another great year, and I think they will continue to rock it out. All right. What about Westwood?
So at the beginning of the year, I think the prediction was 9-3, and with losses to Oregon, Utah, and SC, right? Like if we beat who we're supposed to beat, we win 9 games. Lose who we're supposed to lose to. And that's what we did. We went 9-3. And 9-3 is good. There's it sounds spoiled to complain about 9-3, but at the same time, losing to Arizona is not very good. And in a way, the last few weeks of our season, especially how we showed against Cal and not being able to stop them and having them be in a game against us the entire time, I started to feel like UCLA was more and more a glorified Arizona in that we couldn't stop anyone. But yeah, anyway, looking forward, it'll be interesting to see. There's going to be some problems on the roster. We're going to lose DTR. We're losing Charbonnet. It'll be interesting to see what we can do in the portal. High school recruiting, bodies wise, numbers wise, has not been very strong. So we're going to need to do something in the portal. But it'll be interesting. And it'll be interesting to see what we do in our bowl game. It'll be interesting to see if DTR plays, because the funny stat to me is that we had a 5-year starting quarterback who might graduate with never having played a bowl game. Which is a ridiculous stat. So I'll complain about us a little bit more when we do a more detailed bowl game breakdown. But for now, I'll leave it at that, and we can move on to the Trojans.
All right. Actually, guys, we are going to pause on the Trojans here for just a minute because we have a very, very, very special guest. We are being joined live right now by Brian Howell from the Boulder Daily Camera and Buff Zone, live from Boulder, from the arena in Boulder. Brian, welcome to the Pac-12 Chat Show here in the Voice of College Football.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, we are thrilled to have you, and we have a bunch of questions for you, guys. Brian is really the expert on all things CU Boulder. He works with the Boulder Daily Camera and Buff Zone, and just absolutely the guru. You guys have seen him all over. Brian, our first question for you is we want to salute Rick George because we do these little cartoons on our show, and we had Rick George in the center of the dumpster fire for Boulder, and he has absolutely pulled the rabbit out of the hat to do some amazing things. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. How did the administration that put Darrell in charge make the pivot to say, let's go with primetime? I mean, it seems like the least inspired hire ever into the most inspired hire. What happened?
Yeah. Well, first off, I would say there's probably a lot of fans that would have liked to have thrown Rick George into a dumpster fire during this stretch.
We do have it courtesy of Photoshop. Should they need it?
Yeah. I mean, they were kind of sick of him, and a lot of people wanted him to go because of the Carl Durrell hire and the way that thing has turned out. But basically it is a 180. I mean, it's a total flip from what CU's done in the past. And, I thought Rick George had a really good hire with Mel Tucker a couple of years ago, and really took a chance on a guy that's an up and coming coach. Now, I know Michigan State wasn't very good this year, and Mel Tucker still's really got to prove it over the long haul. But I think it was a pretty good hire at the time. But he was burned 15 months later, and a lot of times you'll see ads will do 180s when they're burned, right? And he did a 180 at that point and went with the very safest hire, which was Karl Dorrell, and that didn't work. And now complete 180 where you're taking a big time chance on the biggest name out there, arguably the most charismatic coach out there. I'm not sure there's a person on the planet with more confidence than Deion Sanders. And you go out and get that guy. There's so many things that are different. They're paying Deion more money than they've ever paid a coach by almost $2 million right off the bat. They're paying the assistant pool $1 million more than they've ever paid anybody. And they got the administration to change some of the admission standards as far as getting transfers into school. And they got a collective built in time for all this to get done. That's all happened in the last 4 weeks or so. So they have completely done a 180 because they understand this program needs something like this.
Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show. We know you're extremely busy. You'd mentioned to me that you were going to be finishing up a women's basketball game. You're there in the arena, and I don't know how much sleep you've had the past week, but you're doing an outstanding job. Guys, if you're not following Brian on Twitter, please. Amazing stuff. You can follow. I've been following kind of the pulse of what's been happening there. Clue our viewers in. Let us know, when did you kind of get word that, wow, Colorado's talking to Deion Sanders, and this sounds like it could be happening?
The search was about 2 months long, and right off the bat, I never even thought about Deion Sanders, and he wasn't even on any of the initial lists of candidates that everybody does whenever a coach is fired. But then it was a few weeks into that, you start hearing that Colorado's got interest in that, in Deion Sanders. And my initial thought, and a lot of people's thought, was, oh, come on. They're not getting Deion Sanders. And, at that point in time, this is about the time that Deion's on 60 Minutes and game day is going to Jackson, Mississippi. And my thought was, when all these Power 5 jobs open at the end of the year, Deion Sanders is going to be wanted by all these Power 5 schools. There's no way he's going to pick Colorado, which is going to be 1-11. And, as you guys mentioned, sort of a dumpster fire. And my whole thought was, the only way he's coming to Colorado is if this is his only Power 5 offer. And as you got into the last week or two of this search, it's like, this might be his only Power 5 offer. And the only other school that you heard seriously him mention was South Florida. And then towards the end, when Luke Fickell left Cincinnati to go to Wisconsin, you started to hear Wisconsin a little bit, but you never heard anything serious other than Colorado and South Florida. And that's when it became like, wow, this might actually happen. And it wasn't until like late last week that it really started to hit that, yeah, this is happening.
I'm sure there's a lot of excitement. There clearly has to be. I mean, the whole Pac-12 is excited about this hire. Are there concerns, just bridging off of what you just said, that there were not a lot of Division I FBS offers for him? Schools like Auburn, maybe even like a natural fit. Everyone kept kicking around, like Georgia Tech, right? Being a big Atlanta guy with the Braves and the Falcons. Is there any concern by fans or the media that he did not have any other big offers?
Yeah, for me, I think that, initially I think that's a red flag. What is it about him that none of these other schools wanted to take a chance on him? But the more I've thought about it, a lot of times coaching hires are somewhat safe, and, even like Auburn going with Hugh Freeze, and obviously he's had his baggage, but that's a somewhat safe hire because Hugh Freeze has been in the SEC and he's won. So they know what they're getting, right? A lot of times ADs like to go with, they know what they're getting. And Deion Sanders, you don't know what you're getting. I mean, you're getting the confidence, what you're getting as far as what he's going to bring off the field, but you don't know what you're going to get as far as can he coach at the Power 5 level. And I think you're taking a somewhat of a big chance on Deion. And, I give Colorado credit for rolling the dice because I don't think there's another program in the country that needed a jolt like this and needed to roll the dice more than Colorado, and they did it. And so I've kind of looked at it. Initially, I thought it was a red flag, but I've sort of switched a little bit and thought, I think there was just some, it wasn't the safest hire for a lot of schools, and Colorado took a shot.
What is it bizarre to see the transparency that he's already brought to Colorado? I mean, three of the four of us, three of us are USC alums and one is a UCLA alum. And USC gives less media access than the 1960s Soviet Politburo did. So is it wild that you're getting to actually watch team meetings?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what it's going to be like when spring ball comes around. Like, is he going to allow the media to come in and watch practices, or will that be, his team providing video of what they want everybody to see? So that's what's different about that, is that that team meeting was, is that what they wanted everybody to see, or was that the whole thing? But it was very interesting. I've never seen it.
That is a very true smart journalism question.
But it's true that, with practices, how much are they going to show us? Are they going to show us the 20 minutes that they want us to see, or are they going to let us come in and watch? So I'm curious about that. But I was shocked to see, the team meeting. I don't know if that was the entire team meeting, but I was shocked to see it thrown out there on social media. And, I think some of the players probably were too, that, wow, I think everything we do here might be potentially out there for the world to see. And it was it was an interesting team meeting. I don't know if that's what they normally look like, because we don't ever see them, right?
So when you talk to the players, are the Colorado players, obviously change is coming, not a newsflash to them. We've seen some have seemed very motivated and excited by what's going on. Others obviously know they're on the way. We saw, Luke McCown didn't even stay to wait for Deion to be announced. What's the feeling like from the players? Do they feel kind of inspired, or do some of them feel kind of like they failed and it's kind of unpleasant?
I think there's probably mixed, probably like you're seeing on social media, right? I know, from what I've heard, a couple of the guys that have been in the transfer portal, and I will say it has not been a mass exit like I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be a hugely active couple of days once the portal opened, and CU's had like 2 or 3 guys go in there, and that's about it. That kind of shocks me, but I do know of a couple of the guys that have gone in there. It's because all the speculation that they went in there before Deion was announced, but it was pretty looking like he was going to, and they didn't want to play for Deion, and they didn't want to be a part of it. And one of them is Owen McCown, obviously, because if Deion comes here, so is his quarterback's son. So why would Owen McCown stay here? So Shedeur
does look like he weighs more than 97 pounds soaking wet.
Yes, so he right off the bat he's got that over Owen McCown. And hey, Shedeur's been successful.
I'm just teasing. Owen McCown actually seems like an awesome guy. He just is.
No, he is. He's a really good kid, but I think he's going to be a really good quarterback for somebody. To be honest with you, he's just he was about 167 pounds this year, which is pretty small for a Power 5 quarterback, as you know. So I haven't talked to any of the players, but just judging off the reaction of social media, it looks like there is a lot of guys that are like, hey, let's go. But then, I'm sure there's a little bit of that. What are we getting into here?
Ryan,
go ahead, Rick.
Let's talk about the coaching staff that Deion's starting to assemble. We hear that Tim Brewster is coming with him from Jackson State. Also, there's reports about Willie Taggart, and I don't know if he's actually been hired yet, but there were some reports I was following on Twitter today that Mike Zimmer was reportedly going to be the defensive coordinator. That has changed. But can you walk through what you know on what Deion's done in terms of hiring his staff at this point, who he's hired and who he's looking at?
Yeah, there's been a lot of different reports out there. Colorado hasn't announced anybody yet, but there's about 6 of the 10 spots that we can figure out at this point, and several of the guys have already started working at CU. I mean, Tim Brewster has put out on Twitter that he was heading out on a recruiting trip today for Colorado. So CU hasn't announced him yet, but he's out recruiting. So he's going to come here as the tight ends coach. Charles Kelly from Alabama, he was the associate defensive coordinator this year. He's being hired as the defensive coordinator, and he's been a longtime coach and coordinator at Florida State and a few other places. So he's coming here. You have Sean Lewis, who's been the head coach at Kent State the last 5 years. They brought him here as the offensive coordinator, and he's had some pretty high-powered offenses there at Kent State. He's bringing his O-line coach with him. And then, Deion's got a couple of his defensive coaches from Jackson State that are coming with him as well. So those are the 6 that we know of. As far as Willie Taggart, initially, I thought that he was going to be on the staff, but it looks like Willie might have just been here. I know he was on campus this week, and it sounds like he might have just been here helping out and consulting a little bit with the transition, because Deion's not really around right now because he's back at Jackson State. So it's my understanding that Willie may or may not be on the staff, but at least he's been here this week kind of helping out with that transition. As far as Mike Zimmer, I don't think he's going to be one of the coaches, but it sounds like if he's going to be here, it could be like an analyst type of role.
And a wild question for you, and I don't mean to sound like, Mr. Stick in the Mud in asking this, but is there like an agreement between Jackson State and Colorado? Because what is happening with the coaches sort of serving 2 schools? The sitting quarterback of Jackson State in the press conference being announced as the new quarterback of Colorado without having transferred or applied, or it's just, it in any other circumstance, it would seem that it would be wildly sort of like not kosher, and Jackson State is really cool with it all.
Well, Jackson State, of course, is cool with it all. It's Colorado that you're kind of like, really? All right. But that's the Deion effect. I mean, that's Deion does kind of what Deion wants. And, I think this is, Deion calling the shots saying, yeah, I'm going to come to you, but I am going to finish out with Jackson State. And, Colorado's like, sure. Yeah, whatever, whatever you need to do. So I think they're kind of letting him do that. And he had a kind of a funny comment in the press conference. He was asked about, coaching the Celebration Bowl, which is December 17th. So it's really only from now a week and a half left.
Yeah, it's not like he's a New Year's Bowl.
Yeah. So it's only about 2 weeks basically from the press conference. So, but he made the comment. He said, look, I played football and baseball at the same time. I can multitask.
I know. I love that. His press conference was amazing.
Oh, it was one of the most amazing things I've been a part of. I've never seen a press conference like that. And I mean, the guy had the whole room laughing, cheering. It was like this party. I'm like, is this a press conference, or am I at times I thought it was a comedy routine. Yeah,
he's got Jeremy Bloom fangirling. It's hard to beat that.
Well, I mean, there were a couple times that he would say a line. A clever line, and he'd say, "Now that's pretty good. You guys need to cheer for that." And then the whole room would cheer. It's like the guy just, people just sitting there. Okay, what he wants to do, Deion, and you should cheer for that line. Oh yeah, So it was kind of funny.
What's been the response from what you can gather and see or hear from the student body? Even though Colorado has been down. We watched a few games, and there's still a good turnout. But I can imagine the energy that is in Boulder right now has got to be just off the chain.
Yeah, it's insane. And this is a small group, but still, Deion lands here around midnight last Saturday night after the game with Jackson State, and fans had tracked the flight. I mean, they tracked that there was a flight coming from Jackson, Mississippi to the airport in Broomfield, which is about 20, 30 minutes away from here. So they knew that was coming. There was a group of 50 or 100 fans that greeted that airplane, close to midnight on Saturday night. And then I don't know if it was the same fans, but they went over to where Folsom Field is, because Deion did a tour of the facilities in the middle of the night after he got here, and so he's touring the facilities at 1 o'clock in the morning. But when his car pulls up, or their van with everybody in it, there's 50 or 100 fans that are waiting there cheering for him. So these fans were excited. They're walking. Deion and his family and everybody walks out on the field, and there's fans that are up outside the gates. They see him walk out on the field and they're yelling, prime time, yelling for him and all that stuff. So the fans and the students are pretty excited.
What about one of the things we talk a lot about realignment, we talk about regions and trustees, the different schools and things like that. Is this was this really driven at all by the regents making a push, because the changes in the admissions issues, the transfer issues, the investment in Deion, and just the changing of so much of the CU brand and processes? Who is that? Is that President Salomon? Is that DeStefano? Is that Rick George? Who's really the driving force behind just such a fundamental organizational shift?
Well, I think this is an easy answer probably, but I don't know if it's a cop-out answer, but I think it's all of it. I don't know if there's one driving force. President Solomon is new, and I had a chance to meet him for the first time in October, actually about 2 days before Carl Durrell was fired, and we chatted about a bunch of different things. And he wanted to have a good football program. He said, "Look, we need to be better in all these areas like NIL and transfer portal, all these things." And I think that was a part of it. And CU, once fans learned about the transfer issues, and really what it was is that CU for years has not accepted a lot of credits that that kids earn at other schools. And so, you could have somebody, I'm just using an example, but you could have somebody that gets 24 credits at UCLA and they want to transfer to CU, and CU says, yeah, that's great, but only 12 of your credits transfer here. Well, those kids don't want to make up another 12 credits they've already done, right? And so CU is now, once fans learned about that, they put a ton of pressure on administration that you've got to change this, or else we're never going to get these types of athletes that everybody else is getting. And I think it was a collection of all those people that were like, we do need to change this, and they've kind of fast tracked it.
Well, and I confess, this was our show's cry for help for President Salomon, that Ralphie deserved help, and he delivered.
Yeah, he did. And credit to President Solomon, credit to Rick George for getting this done, and Rick George and Phil DeStefano have been two of the biggest targets for fans. But honestly, credit Phil DeStefano for changing a little bit. He at Carl Durrell's firing press conference, I asked Phil DeStefano, you've got these transfer things. Are you looking at changing those? And he kind of bristled a little bit and said, those things are not changing. Well, they did. Less than 2 months later, they changed. So he was blasted after that press conference for the way he answered that question. And I think administration heard that, they felt that, and they made changes pretty quickly.
I've got a question.
Well, actually, go ahead, LBC. Sorry.
We all saw the video of Deion walking through the facilities late that night when he arrived, and he was with his wife and his crew and some of his coaches, and they were really amazed at when Deion walked out into the field, and he was picturing it. He was envisioning. You could tell the guy had a vision. He goes through the locker room, and he's seeing things that he didn't have at Jackson State. I mean, one of the things that they didn't have was water. They didn't have clean water. I don't know if you remember that earlier in the year. There was that report about they had water issues at Jackson State. Going from drinking Mississippi mud to coming to Boulder, Colorado, Rocky Mountain spring water, has there been any comment about the water quality in Colorado?
Well, and I'll tell you, I laughed at it. It reminded me of like when you see the videos of U.S. soldiers liberating Mussolini's palaces. That was the sense I got.
It's funny. The other thing he mentioned was, I'm going to tell you, I don't know much about Jackson, Mississippi, but in watching somebody else do a video talking about Deion, I understand there's crime in Jackson, Mississippi, that there's a decent amount of it. Deion had an interesting comment during the press conference where he mentioned there's no crime here, so it was kind of an odd thing.
Didn't he?
Yeah, and how often have you ever heard a coach say that about coming to a new place? So I think there's part of him that was kind of surprised at Boulder a little bit and thought, wow, this place is maybe different than I thought it was. But it was interesting that he mentioned the no crime. There's no crime here, but probably not like it is where he's used to. But I imagine the water. If it's based on what we saw in Jackson, Mississippi, I guarantee it's not like that in Boulder, Colorado. Because I travel a little bit. There's no water like here. This is the best water.
Like I was joking with Tony earlier. The power of Deion. I mean, he's going to notice the water. I would think within a couple days, if Coors isn't a sponsor of Colorado football, they soon will be.
And Michigan
Yeah,
man, Jason. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Brian.
No, I was gonna say. I mean, I'd be surprised if within a few days there's not a lot of people that are sponsors of Colorado.
Yep.
Brian, real quick, this is Chris here from the UCLA alum, and thanks again for joining us tonight. It's been awesome. You're talking a little bit about like the added money in terms of like people wanting to sponsor and whatnot. And as a fan, as of an institution that has its share in the past of issues with transfers coming in and has also kind of lagged in the setting up of an NIL collective, I was hoping that you could talk a little bit more about, you know, the process and the excitement that's kind of come from your donor base, which I imagine had to be at an all-time low sort of in the middle of this year. The added excitement and sort of how that entire NIL collective came to be and got established at a place that doesn't quite have that the way it should be.
Yeah, you know, certainly I would hear from a lot of donors, and there were people that were fed up, and they didn't want to give more money the way they were, and you know, as far as the NIL collective, you know, CU had done some things as far as like they had set up a website that would help facilitate deals, you know, that where athletes could sign up and then businesses could sign up and they could partner with each other. But that wasn't a collective, and that didn't come up until just a few weeks ago. And there's an organization called Buffs for Life that's been around for a number of years. John Embry, actually the former CU head coach, started it several years ago, and it was originally started as a way to have Buffs help former Buffs, you know, and you know, with medical bills and things like that. It eventually, after like Rashawn Salam 6 years ago this month took his own life, and after things like that, they started focusing more on, hey, let's focus on the mental health of our Buffs and make sure that that we're okay in that regard. And then just for for Buffs that are driving this, and I don't know what the number of what the money is looking like at this point, but it is former Buffs that are driving that and that organization.
Connor Johnson, one of our most loyal folks, who's a devout Beaver alum, was asking, and it may be too early to know, but he was wondering if you know anything about if Stax is expected to be coming back.
I think so. You know, obviously, I think it depends on. It kind of depends on if Deion Sanders wants him back, to be honest with you. But you know, Jaylee Stax, you know, it's interesting. It comes from a Beaver alum because that was the one game that Stax really played a lot and looked pretty good, even though you know Oregon State killed him. But you know, there were so many injuries with running backs that Stax looked pretty good in that game. I don't know if he's a Deion type of guy or not, but you know, he's a guy that's got a couple of years of eligibility left, and he's a big bruising back, and so I would imagine that he would be back. But again, it's hard to say with Deion. You know, who does he want to keep?
Yeah, I know that Coach Prime I just know he's gonna have the confidence in himself. But you know, we've seen some programs, Sonny Dykes turning a 5-7 TCU around, and you have teams like DeBoer and Washington and USC and Riley turning teams around really fast, right? Because of the new NIL and the new transfer portal and the way things get sped up these days. Are there any concerns? Because we had a Michigan guy here say, "Why are you guys talking about Deion?" Apparently, he doesn't follow the news very much. But are there any concerns from you guys? You know, he said that he'd be lucky to win 4 or 5 years next year, 4 or 5 games next year. Colorado's won 5 games in 2 years, right? So, I mean, a 4 or 5 win season would be a great step in the first direction. How concerned are you with the fans and the support system that Coach Prime's going to have? How patient do you think they're willing to be given how things have been unfairly sped up for all new coaches?
Well, it's an interesting question because, when you bring in Deion Sanders, I think the expectations raise quite a bit. But there's also the fact that CU has not been very good for a very long time, and you're coming off a 1-11 season. And I think this fan base would be, maybe I'm wrong, but my sense is if you could just get to a bowl game next year, that would be tremendous for this program. And if you're 4-8, but the 8 losses are very competitive, and you're losing to USC by 11 instead of by 400 like you did this year, things like that, then maybe they're satisfied with that. I don't know. I think it's super hard right now to project what CU is going to look like next year because Deion's just getting started, and what exactly is he going to bring in? There's talk Travis Hunter, the #1 recruit in the country last year, might be following him from Jackson State. How good is Shedeur Sanders at this level compared to FCS? So there's so many knows with what he's going to do. Does he bring in this anywhere close to the star power that Lincoln Riley brought into USC? I don't know if he's going to bring in the Blitnikoff Award winner, and a Caleb Williams type, but I think that's so unknown. And so the expectations, I think we're going to find out more in a month or two when kind of we see what his roster is going to look like.
All right, Brian, we have taken more of your time than we promised, but we really, really, really appreciate it. This has been absolutely fascinating. We do this show, and we have wonderful folks from all 12 of the Pac-12 schools that watch, and I can't tell you how excited we are. I mean, I know you're a professional journalist, but for all the Pac-12 fans from all 12 teams, it's so good to have CU back.
Yeah, I am a journalist, but I also did grow up here. Born and raised in Colorado, and I was in high school when they won the national title, and I loved. I mean, it's amazing to me sometimes that I wouldn't say a friend, but I've gotten to know Darian Hagan very well. And like Darian Hagan, like, are you kidding me? When I was in high school, that was the man, And so So I've been a fan. I've kind of lose my fandom being a journalist, but you're still that fan, right? And so it's exciting to see Colorado having some excitement. Are they back yet? I think we're going to find out. I wouldn't want to say they're back yet, but I think they have a shot to be back, and that's much better than what we've seen over the last few months.
Well, Brian, I know that you've got several people that probably started following you in the last week. Can you let our audience know how they can follow you and keep up with all the latest breaking news on Coach Prime and CU?
Yeah, real quick, it's funny because I've never really paid attention to how many followers I have, but
I suspect it's gone up this week.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't been able to ignore the constant notifications, and so around Saturday night I started looking like, okay, what's my follower count? And then I've gained like 3,000 followers since Saturday. It's insane, And so, yeah, if anybody else wants to follow me, I see it right there on the screen at Brian Howell 33 on Twitter, and buffzone.com is where our coverage goes. So, follow me there, and we'll get you the latest on the Buffs.
Hey, Brian, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Let's go Buffs.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right, guys. Well, that was fun.
Yeah,
What
that was
fascinating
awesome.
insight.
Come on, yeah, that was great.
Live from the arena in Colorado. So awesome for Brian to join us, and we got the latest on what's happening with Coach Prime. So very cool.
And really, guys, if you get a chance, follow Brian. His coverage from the Boulder Daily Camera and from Buff Zone, he is the best. And Colorado is relevant. Colorado matters. And it's gonna be pretty wild.
And it's a great story, and it's a great story for the Pac-12. So if you guys are here, I know we don't chant like some other conferences do, like morons, but we do have pride in our conference. We do like to know what's going on. So be a great story to check out if you guys have a little time.
Absolutely. And guys, we were talking about some of those metrics. I thought this was pretty impressive. LBC sent this over. This is talking just a little bit about the Prime effect. LBC, you want to hit some of these numbers and what's going on in Boulder?
Yeah, it'd be great. But let me see if I have my eyes going here. It's kind of
Oh,
hard.
okay.
Yeah.
I got a bigger screen right here.
Okay.
Just some heads up, guys. Kind of the effect that this has had just in his announcement. Remember, I mean, you got to think Colorado has sort of struggled a little bit for attention. Yeah. How about 173,000 new followers, 42 million new impressions,
Wow.
1,400 season ticket deposits put in, 2,000 season ticket interest forms, and 6,000 new season tickets in the pipeline. And remember, Colorado, guys, unlike a lot of our conference, Colorado sells out their stadium even when they're awful.
And online revenue, close to $50,000 in merchandise sales in one day.
One day.
The prime
One day.
effect.
They can't keep the shelf stocked. It's absolutely bananas and really exciting. I thought this was interesting, guys. So Coach Prime is going to be the third highest paid coach among current Pac coaches. Will and D, hold this right there because we are going to chat. See you Notre Dame in just a minute. Will and D, thank you for that though. We got Jay there. Hey Jay, thank you very much for supporting the channel. And Jay, we love having you, and we love seeing you live the other night from Vegas too.
Even if you are a friar, we still love you here. We do.
He's a Santa Barbarian and a Trojan.
He's good people. That's who he is. Thank you, Jay. And that was a great chat. So, guys, these are the 12 Pac-12 schools, what they pay their coaches, and what their records were this year. We sort of know who's on the left. A pretty amazing David Shaw, of course, no longer there, but was phenomenally well compensated. But CU has all of a sudden jumped up with the big boys here.
Look at
Any
that.
thoughts?
Tony, I got to give it to you, man. You come up with these graphics that are just so money. This is perfect.
Well, it's not hard. This was an easy one. These are just basic graphs, but
yeah, look at Stanford. They were dishing out $9 million to David Shaw. I think they're going to save a little dough.
It's $3 million a win.
Yeah. Yeah, but look at Washington there.
Although if you said to Stanford, would you pay $3 million to beat Notre Dame? They'd go, yeah, we'd probably pay 10.
Great point. No, but look at what's happening.
You see, Regent Gumby reminds us rent is expensive in Menlo Park. It's true.
It is. But look at the coaching staff in the Pac-12 and what they've done in just a couple short years. You got Lincoln Riley, long time veteran coach, and Kyle Whittingham. He's the dean of the Pac-12. Now you got Prime. You've got Dan Lanning. You got Will Cox is making changes with his offensive staff. You got Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly is right in the middle. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. What's UCLA going to do? They're on the spot right now. There's a big spotlight on UCLA. Chris, what are your thoughts with respect to what's been happening with these coaching hires and where UCLA sits?
So the funny thing about the 4.8 and the 4.7 for UCLA in college, you have to go get that approved by the regents, right? Anytime you want to go over like a certain amount. I don't know how eager the regents is going to be to increase that for us in the future. We'll have to see. There's all those little battles going around. But as to like the actual coaching position, I mean, I'm kind of wait and see at the moment. Like 9-3, he did exactly like what you would do as a coach to like not to do well enough to be able to go get another job somewhere else if you wanted to, which is possible if you believe certain rumblings that if he had done, if we had gone like 11-1 or something, that Chip might have wanted to find a new home himself, but not bad enough to warrant being fired. It would look really, really silly regardless of what you think of roster construction or recruiting or anything else, UCLA is not the kind of school that's going to fire someone after going 9-3 of all things. So it's a matter of like there have been some good things happening in the portal lately, and and maybe it's true that he can, despite the lack of desire to recruit at a UCLA level historically, at the high school level, maybe Chip can just do enough in the portal and get the guys that he wants to keep it going. And it seems weird year to year. It seems a lot harder to have that be sustainable to me, but we'll see.
And thanks to Lou Rogers for that nice note. We appreciate it. We're glad to have you here. All right, guys. So we chat a little bit about what the legacy is of Colorado that's been reawakened here.
Yes.
All right, guys. Let's talk just a little bit about Colorado. We don't talk a lot about Colorado because they've not been relevant, and they absolutely haven't really mattered. And one of the things we were just talking to people, we noticed this week is that people don't really appreciate the wild history of Colorado. And there's a couple things folks do know. And so we just want to quick hit a couple of like just amazing characters about Colorado. Because the thing about Colorado football is it's not just that they were good, because they were good, but they have had some just absolutely wild characters in the history of Colorado that are just some really, really amazing people. And so we just want to chat about them and chat about who like some of the most impressive Colorado Buffaloes were of all time. Because I don't care who your team is, you may not have folks like this with you guys. Now, and he's maybe not the greatest quarterback in the history of the world, but just a reminder, Joel Klatt, who is my favorite broadcaster, I don't know about you guys, devout Colorado Buffalo. Everybody from Michigan.
Wait, can you go back, Tony? Can you go back to that picture real quick?
Yeah.
Joel Klatt looks like, why is the punter? Was he a punter or a linebacker? Was he really a why did they let the punter he looks like a linebacker. Does he look like a quarterback at all?
And the funny thing is, I think he looks older at age 22 than he does now.
That's completely.
LA has been good to Joel Klatt.
My goodness, absolutely. All right, sorry about that.
No, it's true. But guys, there's three characters, and I want to tell you guys a little bit about them, and then get kind of your take. That are just unreal characters about from Colorado. And the first is Whizzer White. Like, this guy is not real. So how many of you guys have heard of Whizzer White, also known as Justice White? So this is a guy who played from a high school class of 6 in Fort Collins, played football, basketball, and baseball for Colorado. As a basketball player, he led them to the finals of the first NIT at Madison Square Garden. As a football player, he finished second in Heisman Trophy balloting. Led their football team to an undefeated season, losing to Rice in the Cotton Bowl, unfortunately. Was the student body president and valedictorian, dated the university president's daughter and married her for their whole lives. Then, get this, was drafted 4th in the draft, but also in the same week he was drafted 4th by the NFL, named a Rhodes Scholar. So he postpones going to Oxford for a year. As a rookie, is the NFL's leading rusher. Then he's like, all right, I got to go to Oxford. Leaves the U.S., goes to Oxford in 1939, hangs out, was idolized by the Ambassador Kennedy's kids, Joe and Jack. You might know them. Then, of course, World War II comes out. He is on his way to Harvard Law, gets sick on the train and says, I'll just go to Yale. Gets off at the New Haven station because he's sick. Finishes number 1 in his class. Then this is amazing, gets selected to enter the Yale Law Review, but the Detroit Lions beg him to come. So he says, all right, I'll take another semester off and play for the Lions. Is once again the NFL's leading rusher before he just decides to go back to law school. And then he goes and he's a war hero for a little bit, makes a fortune in Colorado as a big-time lawyer, helps get his friend Jack Kennedy elected, and then spends 31 years on the Supreme Court. Like, how is this a real person? And this is this is an example of, we have 3 like quick examples of this. Like, this is Colorado football. Literally one of the most amazing football players in history, who just happened to also be 31 years as a Supreme Court justice.
What a nugget, man. Tony, that's amazing.
It's amazing. And people don't know this because Colorado's terrible. This is literally Justice White. Let's talk about Salinesi. How many of you guys in the chat? How many of you guys in the chat remember Salinesi? Anybody?
How many of you guys are over the age of 40?
Right here, man. He was playing for the Buffs when I was a Trojan, so totally remember.
So Salinesi was from Oceanside, California, is of Samoan descent, and he was one of the first big recruiting coups for Coach Mack. And the young coach who recruited him was a guy named Les Miles. You might have heard later of him. So this guy came out, and he was actually originally a Prop 48, so he didn't play his freshman year. Was the Big 12 Newcomer of the Year in 1987, led Colorado to a 7-4 record. Started secretly dating Coach Mack's daughter, which would later become a thing. Then the next year, in 1988, led Colorado to an 8-3 record. They lost in the Freedom Bowl. And I mean, he was just the inspirational leader of the team. They loved him. He was bringing Colorado up. He wanted Colorado to get to the Orange Bowl. He thought they could win the national championship, but he wanted to get to the Orange Bowl. But as they were getting ready for the Freedom Bowl, they said he wasn't feeling like himself, and he was getting real sick, started vomiting blood, and went to the hospital and was stunningly diagnosed horrifically with a very rare and incurable, inoperable, intreatable form of stomach cancer. And in March 1989, as they had a team that they thought would have a chance at the Orange Bowl, was given 6 months to live. And on his deathbed, he and Coach Mack's daughter actually had a baby right before he died. And on his deathbed, wrote a note to the team saying that he would always be with them and that they needed to push on to the Orange Bowl. And that week, they went to Seattle. And Washington, this Husky Stadium is a tough place to play. And they were playing one of the best Washington teams there in the late 80s. I mean, that was when, the Dogfather was tearing it up. And the team gathered around the middle of the field, and they all took a knee and they pointed to the sky, to Sal. And doggone it, they went undefeated. They beat Nebraska, and they went to the Orange Bowl just like he wanted. But unfortunately, they didn't win the national championship. They got beat by Notre Dame. But they said, we're going to come back and we're going to do it again. And damn it, in Sal's memory, they did. And they went the next year, went back to the Orange Bowl. And as they were on their way to the Orange Bowl, they actually had a special extra jersey made for him. And they hung it in his baby son's room to be there with him when, in his dad's memory, Colorado won the Orange Bowl and Colorado won the national championship. And that's how Colorado won their national championship. And that would be an amazing also story right there, but it actually doesn't end because his son, T.C. McCartney, grandson of Coach Mack, son of Salinesi, star quarterback, was a quarterback himself. And when he was coming out of high school, his number one call was from LSU. Les Miles, who had recruited his dad, recruited him. And he went and was a quarterback at LSU and actually played against Washington at Husky Stadium, where they had done the point to his dad in the sky. And his dad was watching him there. And today his son TC is a coach on the Browns NFL staff. Salinesi, guys, is one of the great stories of history. Absolutely. And how many of you guys in the chat had never heard about that? A couple of you guys. And then just one more. And this is somebody, okay.
Hold on.
Literally,
Tony, hold on 1 second.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Let's talk real quickly because you'd mentioned that Salinesi was from Oceanside, California. And for those of you that are not from Southern California, don't live in Southern California, Tony's giving you a great history lesson. I'm going to give you a little geography lesson and a little subset of a history lesson. I don't know this to be fact, but La Jolla is probably about 20 minutes south of Oceanside down the 5 freeway. And there was a player that went on to go to Colorado who most likely would have been inspired by Salah Nesse, and that was Rashaan Salam. Rashaan Salam won the 94 Heisman Trophy at the University of Colorado, and he went to a little school. It was 8-man football, La Jolla Country Day School in La Jolla, California. And La Jolla and Oceanside couldn't be any similar, two totally different beach cities. But you had to think that Nesse's spirit and his legend inspired Rashaan Salam to go to Colorado. That's how big Colorado was back in the day.
We're going to need a graphic, Tony. I mean, I know La Jolla is not exactly San Diego proper, but we need to do a graphic of all the San Diego Heisman running backs.
So many.
You know, I can think of 4 right off the top of my head.
I know it is pretty crazy.
Ricky Williams,
yep, and a couple Trojans.
Yep.
All right, and another one here. This is another character. And by the way, when we tweeted out about this show, I got a notification last night that Jeremy Bloom liked like 2 of the tweets I put out, and I literally squealed like a 12-year-old girl at a Taylor Swift concert. Let's talk about Jeremy Bloom. Jeremy Bloom was like an early 2000s heartthrob that like on par with the Backstreet Boys. So first of all, if you guys have seen the movie Molly's Game, that's actually about his older sister, the high stakes poker games.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah, that's about his sister. So Jeremy Bloom, first of all, he launched the first true missile at the NCAA that would lead to NIL freedom. And quite honestly, if it weren't for what he was having to do at the Olympics, Jeremy Bloom, actually his lawsuit would have brought NIL even earlier. And the wild thing about Jeremy Bloom, he was a world champion skier, Olympian, football star, and fashion model. And the NCAA tried to block the endorsements that he got from skiing and modeling. I mean, legit true NIL. And in the Olympics, you have to have sponsors to support your training for the Olympics. And he sued the NCAA for it. And the court cases got brutal, and the NCAA fought them tooth and nail. And it eventually got to the point where Colorado was going to be forced to forfeit his games as a result of the NCAA overreach during court fights. Jeremy Bloom is the first one to really have the great case against the NCAA. But he's just another one of these amazing football characters in history. So he's a 3-time world champion on Team USA, competed in the 2002 and the 2006 Olympics in Salt Lake City and Torino. And he's the only athlete to ski in the Olympics and be drafted by the NFL. And he said it made his skiing championships easier because, unlike the other skiers, he was used to having to compete in front of 50,000 people every week. So this guy, despite only being 5'9", and despite having to, at the very end of football season, immediately lose 15 pounds to ski and put it back on for football, just a few months after, imagine you're a professional skier skiing the Olympics at age 19 and then immediately have to like come home and have spring football. Well, in his freshman year, on his first play, get this, first play they throw him the ball, he breaks against Kansas State. Dude breaks 4 Colorado records. Longest scoring play with a 94-yard touchdown. Longest scoring play from scrimmage, longest gain on first career reception, and longest gain by a freshman. Unstoppable wide receiver and kick returner. Was drafted by the Eagles, went to the combine for the draft 3 days after the Olympics for skiing. Unfortunately, he was hurt. He refers to the NFL as not for long after a few years on a reserve list. And, like you do when you're done, leaves the NFL and immediately starts a new marketing software company called Integrate. Sells it, and he's still the CEO of it today. Now, this is not just some random company. It was named Best New Company a year later, the American Business Awards. He's now an author, a TV personality. He's won an Emmy Award. He's chairman of the board of Wish of a Lifetime, which is through AARP, a board member of the 2028 LA Olympic Committee, and he's a popular football and skiing analyst married to a Brazilian actress. Like, Jeremy Bloom is freaking awesome, and he helps to really define Colorado. So, this is just the kind of thing that, I think that a lot of our people, particularly our Pac-12 fans, don't really know about these wild characters of history.
And there's a great interview, right, Tony? A great interview he talks about how he was integral in bringing Coach Prime to Colorado. You sent me that link, and it was just an amazing link.
That's what I was just going to get to.
Oh.
Not only is he, legendary Colorado figure, he's still very involved. And Jeremy Bloom is one of the key people that helped get Coach Prime to Colorado. So, this is why Colorado football matters, guys. And I know they've been so bad and people haven't appreciated it, but it's folks like this that are really why Colorado's mattered. So, with that said, guys, we're going to open up the chat in just a minute, but everybody, who are your favorite Colorado players? And who wants to remind us about the catch?
I'm going to throw a little honorary mention out to Cordell Stewart real quick.
And Cordell Stewart was throwing the ball we see right there to Westbrook.
Yeah, that's my growing up really good Colorado team. I just remember like being a little kid and being like, oh my gosh, that Cordell Stewart guy is so cool. He like plays receiver, he plays running back, he plays quarterback, and like those Colorado teams, not in the glory of their like championships, right? But still real good.
And when they talk about Hail Marys, right? That guy threw that ball 250 yards in the air. Cordell Stewart just unleashed that thing, man. and just one of the most amazing Hail Marys I've ever seen, for sure. Forget the stakes. I mean, just to catch the ball was amazing.
Yeah, that was absolutely one of the most amazing plays that I can think of. All right, guys. So hey, we want to hear from you guys. So if you want to call into the show, we'd love to hear what you think about Coach Prime. We talked about each of the Pac-12 teams tonight. We'd love to hear what you think about the Pac-12 teams. Next week, we're going to do a bowl preview where we kind of start to go in depth into the bowls. But we want to hear what you guys think about the Pac-12. So well, there we go. We just put the Streamyard link in the chat. So we'd love to have you guys call in and talk to us about what you think. Just a reminder, again, we have our sort of like favor. We ask you, don't be a dick, be constructive, and, no personal attacks as you have fun and chat. All right. We got Will ND joining us. Will. Notre Dame was a key part of a bunch of those games for Colorado back in the day.
What's going on?
How you doing?
Doing good.
What do you think about Coach Prime?
Excited for Coach Prime back in the big time, back in the FPS.
Are we going to get a repeat of those classic Colorado Notre Dame games?
Yeah, man. Like that clip, man. I mean, that would have been such an awesome moment for the Rocket after getting robbed for the Heisman Trophy to score the game-winning touchdown, but this wasn't meant to be.
And by the way, Mr. Dweedy is putting out about Darian Hagan. So supposedly, I don't remember. Did Brian mention this? Darian Hagan is actually the one coach on the Colorado team that is being retained by Coach Prime.
That's cool. But Sal, I think Sal was there. It was divine intervention for Sal. The 5th down, that was divine intervention to make the refs give them an extra down. That was divine. That was all him.
That probably was divine intervention from Sal, actually.
Mm-hmm. Can we take a look at the bowls?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Which ones do you want to talk about? So next week we're gonna do the whole show is gonna be kind of focused on bowls. Okay. But which bowls are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to Oregon and UNC. That'll be a fun little shootout.
Lots of offense, yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thought?
Yeah.
What's your prediction on that one?
I think the Ducks will edge them out just because I think the Ducks have a bit more of a defense than UNC. I mean, I think everyone does. So I'm definitely leaning Ducks, but it should be exciting.
UC Region Gumby has a question for you.
Yeah, we're taking on South Carolina in the Gator Bowl. So
I
hopefully we
think
can
he's
take
just trolling
down your
you.
little brother, USC
That's okay.
Junior. Hopefully,
What Will? What do you think about Washington, Texas?
I think Michael Penix is going to put on a show, and Quinn Ewers, like he's been a little inconsistent. So if we see good Quinn Ewers, it could be a tough one for the Huskies. But I think Texas will bow down to Washington, and the Huskies will go on the road and win it in the Lone Star State.
What do you think about Pasadena? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm also kind of like I generally tend to be in bowl games, like thinking a bit more of like which team's actually excited to be there, right? And like the Texas, I already heard D4 when we were joking about potentially matching UCLA and Texas up about how like so many guys from Texas aren't even going to play in that game. Meanwhile, you got like Penix has already said he's coming back to school. He'll be playing that's Washington. I think is so much more happy to be there, and I agree with Will that Washington takes it.
Wait, is Penix getting like a sixth COVID year or something?
I don't know. How old is he?
I could be wrong. I don't know, but
I know Cam Rising's going to get.
But he didn't. I'm not making that up, right? I'm pretty sure.
No, I hear you.
I mean, haven't he and DTR been playing since Wizard White?
Hey, man, look.
Penix is
look it up.
Yeah, sixth and final season of eligibility.
It is a 6, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
DTR was nominated for the quarterback position by Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah, like the chat said, who was it? Someone said that he was injury prone. Yeah,
he had a medical redshirt year one year while at Indiana.
UC Region Gumby points out hard to root against the Fighting Tedfords in the Kimmel Bowl.
No, it's
What'd you say, Chris?
nothing. Never mind.
I like it. Yeah, what do we think about the Kimmel Bowl, by the way?
I think it's fun.
I mean, is that SoFi?
Did they rename it the LA Bowl though? I don't think it's the Kimmel Bowl anymore.
It's the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl.
The Jimmy Kimmel presented by LA Bowl or
okay, so they have that. They still have the sponsor. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he is the sponsor still.
That's great.
I really want Kyle Whittingham and the Utes to kick James Franklin's butt. Like, I don't know. I'm just never been a huge Franklin fan. Like, he comes off as like, oh, he's so good. Yeah, this man cannot adjust to save his life in a bowl game. So I really think that the Utes will win and win big in front of a ton of their fans because they're going to outnumber the Big Ten fans again. Maybe not quite as much. I think Penn State will show up a bit more than the Buckeye fans, but I think it'll be a really good day to be a Ute.
Penn State travels really well, but I'll tell you what, he had his best chance with the offense that he had, that Penn State team, and he lost to Helton. So I think that Whittingham will make mincemeat of them. This team's not nearly as good as that team.
Hey guys, John DeMille just brought up a great comment in the chat. He said Eric Bieniemy was a great CU buff to watch, and that brings up a point. Remember, there was talk of coaching hires right after Jarrell got let go.
Yeah,
Bieniemy's name always comes up. Now, having hired Coach Prime and looking back, what do you think, Coach Prime or Eric Bieniemy? Who's the right fit for Colorado?
I mean, in all honesty, Eric Bieniemy would be a great fit. Like if they had just hired Eric Bieniemy, I think we would be celebrating. But you know, Coach Prime is like it's like a Lincoln Riley hire. You know, it's the hire on steroids.
Maybe he takes a pay cut and they get Bieniemy as an OC. What do you guys think? Why not both? There you go.
Yeah, and Penn State also had a chance to play the Trojans again in 2017, but they choked. They choked away against Ohio State. They had a 21-3 lead. They had a 35-20 lead, but they choked a chance away to beat Helton. So I just don't have any faith in James Franklin in the big game, not at Happy Valley.
And hold on, before Larry, we want your take on this, but before we get to that, guys, Gixxer Squid asks a good question. He wants to know what you guys think how Prime coming into the Pac-12 will continue to affect the conference after the departure of USC and UCLA. What do you guys think?
So I talked to Mark about this a bit, and he doesn't know how long Deion's going to stay in Boulder, but I think it'll really help the Pac-12, really help shield the loss that the two LA teams will have. It won't completely heal it, but I definitely think the Pac-12 can definitely get a much better TV deal now that they have Deion than if it would have just been without the Pac-10 or the Pac-11, I guess,
I'm really
San Diego State. So I think it's huge for the TV deal.
I think more just I look at it as recruiting, because Riley, even if he gets rolling and he gets like to near or at Pete Carroll level with the California kids, just keeping all the studs, even once in a while you have the Deshaun Jackson. You see somebody leave LA and sometimes they go to Cal, but recently they've been going up to Oregon. I see Prime going into Colorado really affecting the Pacific Northwest recruiting, especially of LA kids and stuff. I think that the people that Riley doesn't get, or even the kids that Riley wants, that just don't want to be in LA anymore. Now they got another option besides Washington and Oregon, and probably looking at Colorado. And I do wonder. So we got Larry here. I wonder how much it might hurt. Again, I guess it's probably a culture thing. I can't think of a more difficult culture between Whittingham and Coach Prime, to be honest with you, and the kids that they're going to go after. So I think Utah's going to be fine. But man, that might heat up a rivalry that really never got started there. So that'd be interesting to see.
They won't recruit the same player, Whittingham and Deion Sanders. And to answer the question about what's going to be the effect once UCLA and USC leave, the national media will not be able to just put the Pac-10 in a corner like they would like to and just focus in on the Big Ten, the SEC. Coach Prime will keep the Pac-10 in the national spotlight. There will not be a lull. There probably could have been a lull, but Deion Sanders is coming. He's coming, and he's coming at the right time, because look at the college football landscape. NIL, transfer portal. This is the first year you're not going to have the 85 scholarship limitations. So he could basically turn over that roster. He could have probably 60 new players on the squad next year. I'll put the over-under at 55, and I'll take the over. And here's the most important thing. The NCAA has no enforcement qualities at all. They've been silent. They've been hibernating for over a year. And you know why that's going to be important? Because Deion Sanders can go recruit anywhere. He can go sell the mamas down in Atlanta. He can sell the mamas in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in Seattle, in South Central, wherever he wants to take players. And if that was during the period where the NCAA was enforcing recruiting violations, I guarantee you Kirby Smart and Nick Saban would be sending emails to the NCAA, because they protect their own in the SEC. And that's not going to happen now. So, yeah, every once in a while he's going to pick off a player, but there's nothing that they're going to be able to do, because Deion, he has the clear message to recruits and the swag, and he's so far ahead of his time that other guys are just playing catch up. Nick Saban's lucky; he's going to be retiring in 2, 3, 4 years, and he won't have to deal with this stuff. But he's going to get Nick Prime is going to get the leading role on these Aflac commercials, and Nick Saban will be in a wheelchair 5 years.
Yeah. And I think that if we got a little look into how he's going to recruit these kids in that meeting, right? He talked about he's all you guys with hats. I love it. It's like the teacher who walks in with the hat and tells all the kids to take their hats off. He walks in with a hat. He says, "Hey, listen, during these meetings, none of you guys are wearing hats." And then he said, "If I even smell any weed on any of you, you guys are gone." And he started out the whole thing with a story about how when he was 12, he told his mom that he was going to make enough money one day, he's going to be rich. and that she would never have to work another day in her life. And he's going to go in there with that pitch to a lot of people, say that, that he's going to have your kid committed, and they're going to be on the right path. And I'm going to take care of these kids. I'm going to turn out men, etc. You can see how he's going to mold that recruiting pitch to people.
And Tim, how dumb did I think every Colorado kid in that room was who didn't take his stupid hat off?
That one, listen, you guys have ever seen the video? There's one kid way in the back. He's got kind of like long moppy hair. You see him about it took a little while, about 5 seconds. He goes, he took his hat off.
Yeah, like you're sitting in the front. Deion's literally saying like, "There's not gonna be any hats in this meeting," and they're just like,
huh?
"Okay." And I'm like, "Okay, do you need your here's your transfer portal form?"
Right. There's one kid that if you watch it, I caught that too. There was one dude way in literally probably the back row, way in the back left-hand corner, who just kind of just waits a second, so he's not looking, takes his hat off really fast. It's pretty funny. Gix, no, Larry, how you doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good. Do you have any questions, or you want to wrap up talking about the Pac-12 stuff?
Oh no, I just this Deion stuff's going to be really interesting. Really interesting. I'm with Rick. It's going to be, I think the most interesting part is he's going to be recruiting against, as far as some of the conference. I'm just wondering the sales pitch, because I mean, like Mario Cristobal would sell, I'm going to make a man of your son. Kyle Whittingham, that's one of his pitches. So I don't know. It's just going to be strange to see what kind of recruits he gets. I don't know. I just hope it doesn't turn into a shit show, a circus. Like, I like the attention. I just don't want it to be a circus.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, to me, I feel like all the coaches and a lot of the Pac-12 has kind of been classy, and I would like it to remain that way. But I also think having somebody like Deion can bring in that swagger and just bring a flavor. But, and he seems to be classy. I've watched him on NFL Network a lot. I don't know what to think of it. I mean,
Larry, have you seen the 2 videos of him talking to Jackson State last week?
I have not watched anything on Jackson State, on Deion.
So if you guys get a chance, the YouTube channel Well Off Media is run by his son, and it's what they use to put out phenomenal videos. And they put out they're 2 10 or 15 minute videos of him talking to Jackson State. And one of the things that Rich Eisen knows Deion Sanders very well. And one of the things Rich Eisen talks about is he says Deion Sanders fools you, because Deion Sanders uses his flash, he uses his image, he uses all these things to get the attention that he needs to accomplish the very, 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 very serious football business he's trying to accomplish.
Right.
And Rich Eisen is gaga for Deion, and has been for years. And one of the things he talks about is when Deion was named to the NFL to the Hall of Fame for the NFL, they like sent a car to get him, and they had a press waiting and all this, and they pulled him off of a youth football practice that he was coaching, and he was furious that they pulled him off the practice he was coaching.
Oh wow!
And so Rich Eisen talks about it. And he says, don't ever think for a minute that Deion does not take coaching most seriously, and he doesn't use his personality and image to make that more effective.
Right. Okay.
And if you get a chance, like I said, watch the video of him talking to the Jackson State kids, and I'd send my kid to play for him in a minute.
What was the link on that one?
It's called Well Off Media.
Well Off Media. Okay.
So guys, how do you think? I mean, obviously we don't know the team that Deion's going to have yet, but should the expectation be to do what Lincoln Riley did at SC this year, or should it be more just 8-4, just get to 8 wins?
Not even 8-4. Are you talking about like in 1 year? Not even 8-4. That team is so decimated roster wise and whatnot. Like they could go. He could do amazing things, and they could go 3-9. Like it just depends, right? Like, I think if they go to a bowl game next year, that's amazing, and he has done one of the best jobs that like anyone in the country could have possibly done at that school for like a 1 year turnaround. I know SC went 4-8 last year, but that not all 4-8s are created equal. That team still had, I know they like had a big roster turnover and they like brought a lot of guys in, but there are still some people on that team, and it's not at the bottom the way that this Colorado team is. This Colorado team is literally one of the worst, if not the worst, team in all of FBS.
Yeah.
It's like it's a very bad situation. So to come in and win anywhere between like 4 and 6 games is a hell of a job.
Imagine
And
a
anything
buffalo,
more
right?
than
Like a
that
nice,
is-
imagine like a nice, beautiful buffalo walking, and then it fell over and died. That was like 2 years. That, well, actually, it was a bit ill at that point. And then for 2 years, just gets picked apart, because that's what's been happening down to the bone. This roster they have. That's exactly what's been happening to this Buffalo football team. You know, USC wouldn't got their probably one of their best offensive guys and one of the best defensive guys that are on this year's team. And it's been happening. They've lost just way more than that. And to look at the SC example, Chris is a good point. They went 4-8, but there was enough talent on that team, even with Helton as the coach, to go 6-6, maybe 7-5. A couple balls would go the right way.
that team quit.
They fired him. They put the cornerbacks coach as a head coach, and you pissed off your coordinators. It was a mess. Players quit. It was bad culture all around. The thing with them is they might have the players in place right now, but I do think that just having the culture change alone, with Deion getting in there, bringing some plug and play kids in, keeping the core players that are there left, and really using the transfer portal, it would be literally a miracle if they're bowl eligible. And I would equate that to anything that Dykes or Riley or DeBoer has done. If he went 6-6, it'd be on that level with the roster they have this year.
I think it'd be more impressive, to be honest.
Possibly, I would get you. Well, I agree.
I think 3 to 4 wins is realistic, because you have to look at the Pac-12 and the teams are better. So you're going to have to beat all of these teams. I believe they also open up the season at TCU. So yeah, they're not going to.
Their non-con is rough.
Yes,
Nebraska.
It's Nebraska, TCU, and Colorado State.
Ooh.
Yeah, so they're not going to. 3 to 4 wins would be huge. I liken this to, and Larry, you could probably relate, back when Utah joined the Pac-12 from the Mountain West. It took them a few years to build up the depth, moving from that conference to this conference. And I mean, you watch the video of that football room, it looks like a high school team. That doesn't look like, I mean, they have to turn over that roster, and it's going to take time to beat some of these quality teams in the Pac-12.
And guys, real quick, we've got Ian from Akron joining us. Ian, welcome to the show. Oh, Ian, are you there? All right, we'll hold him in the back then.
Larry, what do you think of my comment?
You can let us know when you're back.
That's exactly what my point was, Rick. Is, I mean, Washington's come back a little bit. They're definitely on the rise. If Penix is coming back, Oregon State is a staple. USC is a staple. Utah is a staple. UCLA, we're not sure what they're going to be yet. I'm sure Chip Kelly's going to get somebody in there. You know, it's going to be hard. If they hit 4 wins, that would be very impressive. You know, the fact that like USC had a coach and a quarterback and a receiver that all played in the same system. And you also had a defensive coordinator that came with them, and you did have some talent at USC. And so that's a once in a lifetime kind of setup that USC got. I don't think Deion's going to be maybe second year. Maybe he can get bowl game, maybe 8 maximum, depending on schedule. But I have to agree. I think the league is just starting to get back to what it was in the 16, 17, 18 season where a lot of the teams were competitive. And so he's firing from the rear. Obviously, when USC and UCLA move, he could find himself up there in the top 3, 4, possibly. And then he's not going to be around, in my opinion.
And we've got, Ian just disappeared again. Ian,
That's another thing.
Sorry, Ian, it popped you out again. Pop back in. Sorry, Ian. I don't know what's going on with internet. Looks like it's being sketchy. Sorry about that.
If he's successful, how long does he stay there? Is another question.
I didn't want to bring that up with Brian. I didn't think that was like the tone. He just got there. So during when we had his time, I didn't want to talk about that. But it's almost like, I'll give the example. I was talking to Tony today on the phone, and I said, when Pete Carroll came to USC, it was like, okay, who's this guy? No one really, whatever. And they started winning. As soon as he won that Orange Bowl, people started talking about the fact that he's going to want to go back and prove something in the NFL. He's going to want to go to the level. He's going to go to the level. He kept saying, win forever kind of thing. And then as he kept winning, we knew he was going to go eventually when he got the right things. If Deion, I think, we don't even know. This is his first FBS gig. But I would have to think that if he's very successful at Colorado, he's going to start getting looks from some SEC schools, right? He's going to start getting some looks from the NFL eventually.
So I think
just really quick, so I know I'm going on and on. But they're doing that well, Larry. They'll be able to pick whoever the successor they want because they'll have a program running again. That's the key. They want, as long as the NCAA doesn't come and hamstring them and knock them back 8 years, then they'll be ready to roll from there.
No,
See, sorry, go ahead.
I'll be really quick, Tony. Tim, the way you finished that was going to be the crux of my point also, is like, if you're a Colorado fan, you should be so lucky as to, if Deion is doing so well that everyone wants to knock down your door to come get him, then great. Cause that means that you've gone from, being the doormat of the entire college football world to winning enough games to be relevant, and you're in a lot better place than you were when you hired him in the first place. So I think it's like like when that question comes up, I always think the answer is like, well, I hope that he's doing so well that he gets to leave.
And it's that thing. When they have that, sorry, Tony, this is exactly what we talk about too as well. If you have that happen, right now there's a culture of losing at Colorado. If that's rolling, and let's say you lose your coach, it's not just like when Deion came in and said, hey, there's a culture of losing here and blah, 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 we're going to change all that, we're going to do this. It's also the fan base. It's also the student body. It's also the donors. And no one's going to want to go back to Carl Durrell if it goes where we think it's going to go. It's you've trained your fan base and your donors that this is how they do it at a higher level of football. And I don't think they're going to fall back into that. Sorry, Tony.
Yeah, so I was going to say, and we'll see. I could be wrong, very wrong in this. I think that he is going to build up such a program that is the definition of what he wants it to be, that I'm not sure that just some random fill-in-the-blank SEC school is going to be better for him or an upgrade. Like, I think he has chosen – he's had a lot of opportunities, and I think he has chosen Colorado for a reason, because it has the potential for him to – not only does it has the branding, it has the history, it has the facilities, it has the location, it has everything he wants, and he is going to completely build it in his image. And the idea that I should just go to the SEC is I don't know that they're, unless he's going to replace Saban.
Norvell.
What?
We don't even know the situation will be in like 5-6 years as far as
who knows? Yeah, Florida State is the one place I could see him
top
going
half
to.
The SEC, Tony. I didn't mean like go at Ole Miss or go grab Mississippi State job. It's not gonna be like a Leach situation. It'll be. I just threw it out there as a top college job, like an LSU or like, oh, did I say that out loud? Oh, I gotta take a shower. I'll be back in 2 minutes. A top level program that's gonna pay him well, and he gets that limelight. Because I do think he's gonna want that limelight. I think he's gonna appreciate the shot he got at JSU and at CU, but eventually he wants to go somewhere else. I just
FSU.
That's the trajectory.
Here's the value he's going to add at Colorado and for the Pac-10 once SC and UCLA leave. Like I said, I listed the reasons why he came at the perfect time. Also, he's got 2 years to get this roster into play, and the college football playoffs can expand to 12 teams. So there's an outside shot for him to get Colorado into that 12-team playoff. And I'll tell you what, he is the perfect spokesperson for the Pac-10 to get the media's time, attention, and speak in a language that we all kind of speak in, calling BS on the SEC or these other conferences being better than the Pac-10. He'll basically lay it out, and there's no better spokesperson that can cut through all the BS to make a statement for the quality of football that's out here. So that is something that's to be determined. But if there's anybody to basically translate and call BS on certain myths and traditions that exist, it is Deion Sanders.
And think about the Pac-12, right? They've been doing really well in these hires. Yeah. Now you have our two of the worst programs, right? You have ASU getting Dillingham, which is we'll see how that goes. And then you also have the investment going after Coach Prime, the worst school in the Pac-12, making possibly the best hire 5 years from now, 3 years from now, maybe the best hire in this whole coaching cycle. So at least you can say is the Pac-12 is not rolling over and hiring Dorrells anymore, right? It looks like things have changed. There's better leadership across the board. Definitely with
Stanford hasn't made its hire yet.
Yeah. Well, there's still time for Stanford to Stanford. But Kliavkov, I think he put a moratorium. I mean, he basically told people, look, you guys need to do, you guys want us to have a TV contract that we can actually pay our bills with. You guys got to get your crap together. And I think that some schools did it 2 years ago or began 2 years ago. Some did it last year and now this year. It's getting cleaned up, guys. I don't know. Hopefully we can win some bowl games and we can stop the laughter. But I mean, what they're doing off the field is showing that they want to be competitive.
All right, let's hear. We got Ian from Akron who's trying to join us. Ian, are you with us this time?
I am.
All right, welcome.
Hey, guys.
What do you think about Coach Prime and the big excitement this week?
Well, Deion's my favorite football player of all time, so that's one thing. But who brought up Jeremy Bloom first?
Oh, that was us earlier.
Who did it though? Which guy?
Oh, he was on. I had him on the agenda. I don't know if we came up earlier, but we had him on the agenda for a while.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I watched that. That made me know what Colorado football was. I remember.
Was it
Jeremy Bloom catch?
He was so good, wasn't he?
I was like, I want to be that because I was a wide receiver and I catch punts while drop one. But guys, has Deion Sanders ever failed?
No.
So why would anyone doubt?
Ian, I'll tell you, I don't. And part of the reason is, people have kind of an image of him. I've watched both of his speeches to the Jackson State kids. I've watched Deion talk to the Colorado kids. And if I was, well, I'd have to have been a lot better football player than I actually was. But if I was a serious recruit, I'd pack my bags for Boulder tomorrow.
Exactly. So we live in like a dog-eat-dog world, and I don't necessarily enjoy the way that he spoke to some of the players in the press conference, but I understand what he's doing.
Did you hear what they said with what Brian said from the Boulder Daily Camera about how many players have jumped in the portal since he came?
I'm sure plenty.
No, like 3.
Oh, it's 2.
So
yeah.
So
Or
you're
two.
saying they stayed because it's a challenge because they want to be there.
They want to the player, and this is, and I've read some accounts of Colorado parents talking about this. Like these kids, like this, they want to compete for those roles. Like this is kind of like this is the dream for them.
So he went in there like military style and said, "All right." So,
It's the opening of Full Metal Jacket.
Ian, but also it's, I think you see, here's what we just saw it on television. This is the conversation that usually coaches pull one-on-one with kids or in an auditorium like that. It's what they say. I remember, you probably didn't, because it's this USC thing, but we had John Jackson on. He was talking about his son. And basically what staffs do is they come in and they run the kids into the ground, seeing who wants to stay. I mean, they kind of do that in high school. Really.
That's why I said military. Like, I'm not saying I agree with Deion. I just said it's like a lot of people are going to take that wrong, but I think, I totally get it. And like, this is already a guy who's gone through the ropes of being, in the NFL and a player. He's not a fully developed coach yet or anything, but what I'm saying is like, I think he's just a guy who has never failed and he knows what it takes to be successful. So who's going to be with us? Who's going to stay? Who wants to be here?
And that's what he said. I mean, a lot of their, when people put out that like 45-second clip, the next thing is he's like, say it with me. We're going to be, and I forget what he is. It's like, we're going to be like smart. And the team's like smart, dedicated, committed. It's, and I mean, he's rallying the team and they don't want to go anywhere. I think they're going to have to go, but
exactly the first question ever failed, and the point here is when he went to draft day, he changed the culture of football. He looked rapper. He had chains on. He had on. I have a shirt that has Deion's draft day, like his picture of it on a shirt.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I asked. Make that for me. Okay. Because what he did when he was in college, then he got drafted. And then when he was in San Francisco, I think he played there for like 1 year. He's stepping on his wrist like he's got a watch, looking at the time, pointing up at the billboard, looking at the Chargers saying, "Hey guys, I think your time is up. Do you have enough time?" And I remember that when I was a kid. And then I couldn't help but look at Cowboys, a very young guy. They had Troy Aikman, Emmett, Michael Irvin, Deion. But Deion was like, whatever Charles Woodson did, Deion was that much. Like, how are you going to just put a guy on offense and run into, in the middle of a game, any game, and just never fail? What I'm saying is Deion is not going to be a failure no matter what he does for Colorado.
I think you've hit the nail on the head with that.
And Mikey, you bring up a great point. There was zero controversial things said. That is the new coach script coming into a 1-11 program. And here's what I'm gonna say to you, because this is not a political show. So I'm gonna say this as just gonna say it straight. The people that are saying that it's anything else than what a coach coming into a 1-11 program is, you got to ask why they're saying that, because you're spot on, Mikey. You're spot on. And what's different about Deion? He's a little flashier, Yeah. You got to what their agenda is if they're saying anything about the way he talked to those kids. Because I got news for you. If Nick Saban said that tomorrow, or a lot of other coaches said that tomorrow, they wouldn't be saying that at all.
And Randall knew what the four were: smart, fast, tough, discipline.
Ian, question for you.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned you grew up watching Jeremy Bloom, and you thought he was a great receiver. How old were you, if you recall?
I didn't say he was a great receiver.
But you grew up watching him.
Yes, I remember him. I remember a couple punts, and then he just brought him back because I love football.
How old were you back then, if you can recall?
That would have had to been maybe early 2000
2002.
or late something like that.
So how old were you?
At that time, I would have been about, we're talking about early 2000s.
He played 2002, 2003.
Yeah, I'd have been about 14.
Okay. Tony, you saw the if you haven't seen the TMZ interview with Jeremy Bloom, there's another thing that he did, and we kind of talked about it a little bit. But Tony, why don't you talk about how Jeremy Bloom, his inspiration was Deion Sanders and how he wanted to change his name.
So
you tell it.
inspirations for me because Jeremy Bloom and Deion was my favorite.
So Jeremy Bloom, on this TMZ interview, the day after Carl Dorrell was fired, he's got passion for Colorado, and he knew he had to create change, and he wanted to get Deion Sanders a chance to be interviewed because he shared the story when he was growing up. Deion was it. He played 2 sports. Jeremy Bloom skied and he played football. At 12 years old, he talked to his mom about changing his name to Deion. He was that into Deion. So, being a kid and at that age, you look up to these athletes. Maybe like you looked up to Jeremy Bloom, you thought, wow, this guy's a great punt returner, receiver. He's got flash, he's got style. But that same guy, had this admiration for Deion Sanders. And what he did is, Jeremy Bloom played in the NFL. There was 4 guys that he contacted that knew that Deion Sanders respected. One of them was Myron Rolle. So what he did is he had these 4 reach out for Deion Sanders saying, hey, look, get in contact with me. I want to set up a meeting with you and Rick George, the Colorado AD. And so Jeremy Bloom, kind of symbolic of his company, Integrate. I think his company's called Integrate, that he sold. That's what he did. He integrated himself and the Colorado history and his vision for who would bring Colorado back from 1-11 and the dregs of the Pac-12. And so credit to Jeremy Bloom.
Dude,
he helped broker the deal.
I'll drop the link to that interview. That was really great. If you guys haven't seen it, I'll drop at the end of the show, so you guys can all go leave and watch it. I'll drop you guys that video because it's a great story that Rick summarized right there. It's pretty amazing.
And we're getting ready to wrap up, so you won't have to wait long.
You got to remember when you're a white boy playing wide receiver here and you see Jeremy Bloom returning punts. That's big.
Who's 5'9", by the way?
Yeah, exactly.
He's 5'9".
Exactly.
And smoked past the Big 12.
Exactly. Like why don't we have punt returns anymore, guys?
Dangerous as hell.
What is it, Rick? What'd you say?
It's dangerous as hell.
It is dangerous as hell, but it's like, is special teams coverage better or is it what? Because we have better special teams players.
Or maybe we need more mogul skiers who are like, yeah, this is fine.
Britton Covey. Covey.
Britton Covey is Jeremy Bloom, except I think he might actually be older than Jeremy Bloom.
Larry said the best thing ever. I made jokes to my friends. Okay, so I recorded Britton Covey in both of them. He did it in both multiple times. Did he not, Larry?
Yeah, he did it against Oregon. He did it against Ohio State. Yeah.
Tell me Ohio State.
Wait, and Larry, can I tell you my favorite Britton Covey moment?
Yeah.
Britton Covey, by the way, guys, if you guys don't know Britton Covey, he's supposed to be just a phenomenal, awesome guy.
The best.
And he caught a pass or whatever, and he was so excited, and he took his helmet off, and the ref flagged him because if you take your helmet off, it's taunting. And so he turned around and just started apologizing. The ref was apologizing. The ref was like, "Well, you did it, so you got a flag." And so they asked Kyle Whittingham after the game. They said, what was going on when Covey took his helmet off? And Kyle Whittingham just deadpans the camera. Oh, I thought he was just trying to show him that the Rogaine wasn't working, so they flagged him for lying. But the Rogaine was working, so they flagged him for lying. Kyle Whittingham. I was like, that was one of the moments when I fell in love with Kyle Whittingham because I was like, all right, this guy's just I mean, he's a great coach, but he's also really cool.
Didn't
Maybe.
Yeah, I've spent time with Kyle. He's the dude next door. Yeah,
I have so much respect for him. And I love all the Utah fans and players, but it was pretty funny. Sorry, Ian, I didn't mean to interrupt. What were you saying?
No, you guys, this is your show, but didn't Britton Covey bring punts back against Oregon in both of the games that they destroyed them?
In Salt Lake, he did. In the championship game, he returned a couple kickoffs. He had some decent yardage, but he had one punt return, and it was to end the half. Yeah.
I must be thinking about Ohio State, because
then he made Ohio State look silly.
All right, let's just.
Oh man, that was ridiculous.
And then Latham Ransom blew his knee out on that damn return. I remember that. But I love Britton Covey so much, and what little white dudes returning punts that I sent it to other guys, and I was like, "Hey guys, I know I haven't talked to you for a while. I've been actually going to Utah for a few years, and I've been returning punts. So sorry you haven't heard from me. It's me actually, guys. Look." But it's it was a funny joke because that dude. Who has returned punts since Britton Covey? Nobody.
No.
Pac-12's returning punts, guys?
Yeah, nobody.
Nobody else.
Not like that. No.
No. But my main question that I called for you, you guys were talking about Deion, and Deion has never failed, so I don't believe he will. In any way that he will be successful, he will. He will bring recruits. He will help the Pac-12. He will help that school, and it is what it is. I went to school with Travis Hunter Sr. He was a great football player, but his son is a freak, and I still talk to his dad on Messenger and ask him a lot of questions. Last thing I asked, man, he's not going D1 this was last year. He's not going D1. He going to be good? And he said, "We're worried about his education, man. Everybody's asked me too many questions, all right." So I backed off him. So it's we know what Travis Hunter Jr. is going to do if Deion's bringing him with him. But Deion's going to be successful. What I wanted to ask you guys, you're Pac-12 guys, but you're also the majority that make this work are USC guys.
Well, just three of us.
I know you are.
Technically, that's not a majority, but go ahead.
Hey, you are the majority, and we know it. But
plurality, not majority. Go ahead.
When it's not a Pac-12 show anymore. If you're USC fans, and I'm not saying anything bad. I know that hey,
maybe it'll have to be a big Pac show.
I'm not. We don't even know yet, right?
No, we don't. Actually, Ian, I'll tell you something funny that I laughed at. The guys who do the podcast of champions, Ryan Abraham and David Woods, who are hysterical. If you guys don't listen to the podcast of champions, you should listen. And people were asking them, they were like, "What are you going to do?" And they were like, "Well, we really don't want to cover Rutgers or Maryland, so maybe we'll just keep doing the Pac-12 and USC and UCLA." I laugh.
That's what I'm saying. You guys are to despise dealing with Big Ten. And I don't necessarily I don't want to talk about Arizona. You don't want to talk about Rutgers or who's even at the bottom at the Pac-12 right now.
Although we're kind of, I'll tell you, I won't mind when we play teams that don't like to score points.
I'm just saying, when it happens, you guys are already dedicated. You're dedicated to USC, but you're also college football fans, and that's why I respect you. Because
I'm from Michigan. I'm from Michigan. I come from Spartan country.
Yeah,
my grandpa's Buckeye and my friends were all Wolverines, so I know the Big Ten just as well. We don't cover them here, but I know the Big Ten just as well.
The thing is, Ian, here really quickly, Ian,
Yes, sir.
The thing is like we're going to be in the Pac-12 next year as well. So we're in the Pac-12 as long as we're the Pac-12. And I know that when SC goes to the Big Ten, I'm still going to follow all these Pac-12 teams. So I would totally be a part of a Pac-12 show going forward because it's weird. A lot of schools that most of the country doesn't really respect. Yeah, I have horrible memories, but I have great memories as well of just playing all of these teams. It's been a big part of my entire life. I've been following Pac-12 football literally my entire life.
That's my point.
For me to instantly just decide that I'm not going to follow the Pac-12 anymore, it's just I can't even think that.
Plus,
that's
Ian,
my point, guys. That's my
Ian,
point.
the people that we had to deal with in the chat the other night after USC lost. By the time I'm done murdering most of them, I'll be in San Quentin anyway.
Right. So that's all I'm asking, guys. Like, you're never going to just stop on the Pac-12. It's who you are. It's what you've grown up on, whether when you were kids, you know what I mean? Like all the way up to now. So I can't see you just.
Well, I grew up. My father's idea of a lullaby when my brother and I were little was go right through for MSU. Watch the points keep growing.
Yeah, that's way more than I can even understand. But I really love that you guys are passionate about the Pac-12, and I don't think that passion's going to die or anything. So I'm just asking.
Hold on, I think we've just heard our answer right here from Mikey G.
Yeah, Tim's always going to be that.
Well,
we'll still be friends.
No, it is going to happen because also you guys. So Mikey and all the guys that always call us out for. Well, not Mikey. You're the one logical Duck fan I've ever met. But the situation is we covered 11 schools today. They won't want to know the one we left out.
USC.
And I forgot. I swear, you guys. We were joking about doing something. Oh, that's cool. But I literally forgot. I'm not kidding, Rick, Tony. I totally forgot about SC. So when I do this show, I do love the Pac-12. I'm so pissed off at Larry Scott. We should have had this opportunity. If SC and UCLA had stayed and we have Coach Prime and we got these coaches lined up right now, it would be a completely different story when it comes to TV revenue, etc. It wasn't that long ago that USC was and our conference were talked about just like any other conference. So it's just a shame that the way timing and everything worked out, but
yeah, I'm
totally gonna miss this conference.
Is Connor Johnson still in the chat? Because we talked so much about Oregon State that we didn't have time for USC, and we got to our guest Brian Howell. But that's how things go. Ian, thank you for your comments. You're awesome, and I'm an old dude, so I know the Big Ten. You know why I know the Big Ten? Because USC's kicked Big Ten ass so many times in the Rose Bowl. I can count Northwestern, Michigan several times, Ohio State, Penn State, Illinois. Have we had the opportunity to maybe not my lifetime? I think Purdue made it in the 60s the last time.
Iowa? Did you say Michigan State?
We lost to Michigan State in the last time in 1987, 88.
The Rising game, but we've beaten Michigan State.
In the 60s.
And you guys were doing so good. You were like, oh, we haven't talked about SC all day. And then you opened the door.
He asked a question, Chris. He asked the question, not us.
But you guys, I'm asking a question in terms of how are you going to secede from the Pac-12 while being USC fans in the Big Ten? And what I'm saying is a realization that you're not going to like it. But you're never going to stop being USC fans, let alone Pac-12 fans, So, guys.
I never stopped being a Big Ten fan.
Well, here's the thing. No, I'm going to be a Big Ten fan. I will stop being a Pac-12 fan. And here's why. Is that we built this conference and we're leaving it in good hands. And that's why I challenge Utah. I respect Kyle Whittingham and the Utes. Okay? They think we're crybabies. They disrespect us. To those Ute fans, F you. Go get a personality. Go get some courage. Look in the freaking mirror and say thank you. We built this conference.
Who do you think the Big Ten respects in the Pac-12 the most out of any?
Oh, that's a stupid question. USC.
USC because we've beat everybody in your conference.
Okay,
So here's the thing: Utah's a great team, and that's
who do you
why
think
We've
they
been
love?
34 Rose Bowls.
handing the baton to
Right.
Larry Pilgrim and
So
Utah.
who do you think they love right now? We love Utah.
Well, Utah's great. They got to go out and win a Rose
Yeah,
Bowl.
Utah. I like Utah Buckeyes right now because guess what? They're not my squad. I can be low, but be objective and be realistic. Utah has 3 losses, but you plays their asses off. You know what I mean?
Yes, they do.
And they play defense and run whatever they have to do to win. That's what I want my team to do, and I think that's what any team wants. You know, any fan wants their team to do.
Absolutely. That's a credit to Kyle Whittingham, the program that he's built over time. They're tough. They're physical. They will wear you down physically and mentally, and they're champions. They're great. They're a great team. So not a lot of people know about Utah outside the Pac-12 because of what happened, in Florida. You got to win some national games. And now Utah has that chance. They came up short against a great Ohio State team. Okay. But that's a worse should occur.
They should
Now
have
it's
beat Ohio State if they didn't have a depleted.
Let's forget about that game. That game is in the past. They've beaten Oregon twice last year, and they beat USC twice this year. That's awesome. Now you got to go beat a Penn State team with a quarterback by the name of Sean Clifford. Give me an effing break. It's on the table. And you got James Franklin to give you 10 points. So
Hey, don't be rude about the only wins that
you're going to get no respect. National level.
That's the Buckeyes' best win, and I think Michigan's best win over Ohio State.
LBC, what I respect about you is the pure passion you have. And you are
LBC is the man.
You're LBC. You have pure passion, and you're objective, and you've never said anything that is really out of line. Like you're gonna call your shots with your data and everything.
Thank you.
I can't say anything against you. If Penn State comes out there, they might. But guess what? I think Utah's going to – but because I really like him. I really love boys pull out and shit or whatever. And Utah doesn't – I don't even know. It's probably flat out there. But they play foot like they got their – the amount of injuries and not even being with the program anymore. Like, do you understand how much better of a program that they would even be right now? The majority of their best players aren't even playing. I'm just saying. Let me ask you a question. Did Caleb Williams write "fuck you"?
So I got where you're going with this. He writes it on his nails every damn game.
I know, but
people get hurt and he wrote something on his fingernails.
Did he write it? I'm just asking you because I don't know. It was a rumor, and I don't want to say he did.
Wait,
he didn't write it. The nail salon wrote it.
Oh, wow,
but
even better.
Yeah, it really is very much overblown. Quite honestly, a lot of the people that make a big deal of it are people that make a big deal out of
did it last year and
any behavior by races they don't like.
Didn't Baker Mayfield grab his crotch? Didn't Johnny Manziel get busted for being drunk in public on video?
Yeah, that's fair. But I'm not.
Didn't Miami do everything Miami did for 20 years?
Did somebody steal a laptop? I mean, here's the thing: people get really mad about certain things, and the fact that he did. Well, hey, bud, let me talk. He did it last year, and outside of some Longhorn fans, no one really made a big deal about it. But all of a sudden, they are. I wonder why.
No one's mad.
I think Jay. Let's end this discussion on Jason Ho's note. You can't be serious getting your feelings hurt over what a kid has painted on his nails.
Nobody's mad.
All right, I think Jason Ho has wrapped that up. Chris, Anyway, Chris has a question real quick, and then we'll get ready to wrap up here.
Sorry,
Chris, what was that?
No, I just have one request. Can someone that has more technical skill than me just give me the little 5-second clip where LB says that game's in the past, so that I can just have that on record to play back later?
You want to sound
What was this? What clip of what?
I just want a 5-second clip. The 5-second where you said that game's in the past, and I just want.
What game was that?
I just want the 5 words so that I have it later for future use.
You can send it to tbm.ucla.edu. He would like that clip.
Chris, what game are you talking about? That I said that game.
Well, for me to use it in the future, I don't know.
Hey man,
I love it.
I love you, man.
All right, guys, I think that is a perfect place for us to start wrapping up here tonight. Ian, any final thoughts?
No, I just love you guys. I love what you do. And I think you need to keep doing the Pac-12 thing.
Oh, thank you.
But I don't know what's going to happen when you go to the Big Ten. You're going to still have that. So thank you, everything you do, guys. Have a great
we
night.
appreciate
Hey,
you, man.
thanks you too. And thanks for making us laugh about Jeremy Bloom. He's the man.
That's my guy.
Maybe we should try to get him on there. Let's ask Jeremy Bloom
Get
to come
Jeremy
on.
Bloom, and I want to know what Larry thinks about fuck Utah on nails.
So
Larry, I'm gonna have a hypothesis. Hold on.
Talk.
Yeah, let Larry wrap
My
up.
hypothesis is
smart as hell.
19-year-olds and their nails don't bother Larry, but we'll see.
It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about why would a coach be like, cool, dude, go out there.
Because he's been doing it for 2 years. It's not about Utah.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
I heard.
Well, he also said, let the injured guy go back in. I tried to keep him out.
Well, hold on, Ian. Yes.
Actually, hold on. And let me just say this, because my dad's a football coach, and when you're in a situation and you have the guy who's brought you there and the guy who is your Superman and your horse and can still make plays, hindsight is 2020, but a lot of times you go for it. And the thing about Caleb is he was still making plays when the offensive line wasn't letting people just stream through and crush him. The thing about it is he couldn't escape from anybody. And the thing is, Miller's awesome. Miller's a great quarterback too, but Miller couldn't have escaped from those guys either.
Well, and Tony, I'll just put it here because I don't want. This is going to be my closing statement.
And then we need to wrap up because we're over time.
Just really clearly, you guys, Caleb set the Pac-12 Conference Championship game record for passing. Let me repeat that.
On one leg.
He did it on one leg where people were saying, oh, well, he played so poorly. What do you think, Duggan? What do you think, Duggan? He set the freaking record on one leg against the best defense statistically and most likely in the Pac-12. So let that sink in. Why didn't he pull him? Probably because he was his best option.
Yeah, you should get the Heisman.
Yeah. All right, Ian, thank you for calling in. We're always glad to have you.
Thank you, Ian.
All right, thank you.
Good luck this week. Talk to you later. All right, Larry, any final thoughts here?
Sure. So it was funny. I heard some people, Kyle, it's kind of funny whether Caleb's written that on his fingernails or not. People have said Kyle would have cut his players' fingers off for disrespecting the other team, but it's just different coaching. So Lincoln, a guy like, and it was funny because I remember people saying Kyle needs to go to California, when they were looking for a coach. And I said, Kyle Whittingham will never work in LA. He is not fit to be a Los Angeles coach. Jim Mora tried it. It doesn't work. LA is different. Kyle Whittingham would not fit in LA. He's a Idaho, Utah, bring your lunch pail. And so, yeah. Anyway, on that,
That's a great point.
yeah, he would never. He turned down Nebraska. He turned down the Nebraska job. Thank goodness for double the money. But I'm looking forward to Deion coming in. I trust you, Tony. If you say Deion is what he is, I trust you. I haven't researched him on those fronts. So I'm going to believe you there.
DM me and I'll send you some awesome links to watch.
Okay, can you post them in the video so I can pull them up later? Can you put them in a link when the video ends? Okay. Just tag them.
I'll put it in. I'll do it right now.
Okay. And then I'm curious to see the progress of the Pac-12 after you guys are gone. I know we've got 2 years, but I want to see us do good in the bowl games. Texas, Washington is my biggest concern as far as a win, and Washington State. It's been a great season. Caleb was really great in that game. Utah took a chance and it paid off. I know why he didn't pull Caleb out. Miller Moss would have got eaten alive by that defense. You can't throw Miller Moss in there when Caleb can still at least slide, and the kid's got such a strong arm. Miller Moss, it would have been worse. Caleb, with what he was, Miller Moss would have got eaten up. So I think Riley was correct in his coaching. Just as a Utah fan, I think he did the right things. And anyway, those are my thoughts. Appreciate you guys doing this show. Really do.
Larry, I'm putting in the chat right now for you.
Okay. I don't have my YouTube up. I'm on the Streamyard, so I'm not looking at the YouTube screen, but I'll switch out.
Actually, in just a sec, you'll be able to pull it out of Streamyard too.
Okay.
It's just posted.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Larry. We'll talk to you soon.
Tim.
See ya.
Fight on.
Fight on, Larry.
You don't lose any bets, Larry.
I like it. Will, any final thoughts here?
Yeah, just an exciting time. I mean, the Pac-12 just keeps getting more exciting each week. I feel like something new happens. Definitely excited for all the bowl games. The only one I'm really worried about as well is Wazoo Fresno. That's a toss-up, but I think the other ones, the Pac-12 should win. So yeah, just really excited. Hopefully Stanford makes a good hire. Like, I don't want Stanford to be terrible because it's bad for our schedule. So I want Stanford to at least be a bowl team. But who knows who they're going to get. I think it'll be really interesting to see who they get. I don't know. I want them to get Brian Mason, but I also don't want him to leave Notre Dame. But I feel like he would be such a good fit, bring life back to that program. But yeah, so definitely going to be keeping an eye on Palo Alto to see what happens there. So excited to see who the Cardinal get. And the Stanford tree hopefully can come back next year and do the games. We need to bring back our Stanford tree back. He's been away too long.
He's allowed to return, I believe, after the first of the year.
Okay.
The Vichy tree is done.
Yeah, Vichy tree's done. So yeah, hopefully he can be back for the season. I'll be excited.
Actually, I need to text him. I think he's down the way right now in Boca.
All right.
Good guy.
Well, he's living it up. Good for him.
Exactly.
But yeah. Awesome
thanks, Will. We're glad to have you as always.
Yeah, awesome show.
Thank you. See you, Will.
TBM.
Thanks everyone for hanging out and chat and for talking teams. It was awesome of Brian to join and call in today. That was great to get some insight into Deion. I look forward to talking about bowl games next year. You know, when your fifth year head coach has his most successful season for your program and you finish 5th or 6th in the Pac-12 and go to the Sun Bowl, you know, there's a lot to be excited about. So, I look forward to talking next week about some of the games, especially ones that are actually a little bit higher on the priority list, like Oregon State, Florida, and the Utes once again in the Rose Bowl. You know, I haven't been around, but wanted to give a quick shout out to Larry and the Utes. You know, losing 2 games early in the season like they did last year, and then, you know, just happening to stick around when everyone forgets about them and end up winning the entire conference again. It's a hell of a job by Whittingham and the Utes, and I want to congratulate them for their season, and we'll talk about it more next week, but good luck in the Rose Bowl as well. Thanks again, everyone.
Hold on, Chris, before you leave. Hey guys, just an idea to propose. We're going to be picking the 7 Pac-12 bowl games. So instead of doing it, and these will be the last games of the year. So instead of just doing the 1 point for a win, I think we should do weighted. So like your number one, or let's say your number one confidence, you give 7 points to. Your second in confidence gets 6, and so on and so on. So that way we put a little more juice in the game and we prevent a tie. Does that make sense?
Actually, LBC, I read a really good article about a system like that.
Okay. So
it was in Convenient Theories for Those in Last Place magazine.
Oh God! I'm in last place by what? 2 points? Come on.
With me, we're tied. That's Why I'm in for it.
Think about it.
I don't even know what
I like
the
the way you
standings.
think.
Did Tim had to have passed me up, right?
Tim passed you by
champion,
1.
Regular season champion.
There you
Tim,
go.
yeah, Tim is the regular season champion. LBC and I are the Cal and Colorado of the bunch.
All right. Forget my idea.
I'm just teasing. I like it. Let's do it anyway. Why not? Double down.
All right. Thanks again, everyone.
TBM.
Good to have you back, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Glad you're feeling better too. All right, LBC, you want to go next?
Sure. You know what? Great show, guys. I'm glad that we were able to get Brian on and also have the chance to talk about each of the Pac-12 teams, with the exception of USC. We'll catch them a little bit later. We'll talk a little bit about that Pac-12 championship game next week when we preview the bowls. But great to have Brian on. Very fortunate. And we'll try to keep you up to date with what's happening in college football all throughout the Pac-12. Thanks to all of our viewers that joined us tonight, our callers. We always love having you on the show and appreciate you. Have a great week. And always fight on. Thank you. Good night.
Fight on, Rick.
Oh, hello. I'm just really happy with this year, how it came out. We got a lot of crap in the Pac-12 last year because we deserved it. But looking down the standings right now, if you look at the top offenses in the country, and you want to look at the top 5, would you guys have guessed that the Pac-12 would have 4 of the top 5 offenses? Tennessee ended up being the best offense, but just by a margin. Then you had Washington, UCLA, Oregon, and SC to round out the top 5 total offense. And another great thing we should go away from this season, the regular season, looking at is we had, one of the best seasons I can imagine in the regular season. You have USC at 11-2, Washington 10-2, Utah 10-3, Oregon 9-3, Oregon State 9-3, UCLA 9-3, and then rounding up our bowl eligible is Washington State at 7-5. But those 5 losses came to the guys I just named just now that went 11-2, 10-2, 9-3. So an amazing. We have every reason. Don't let anybody out there talk crap about the Pac-12 this year. We have some business to finish in the bowl season. If things go chalk, we're going to probably go 5-2. I think we got a really good shot at going 7-0. So until next week, remember, SEC sucks, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Tim. Hey, I want to thank you guys for spending the night with us as always. And we want to thank Mark Rogers, who gives us this opportunity to bring folks together from all 12 of the Pac-12 conference schools. And Mark, we really appreciate it. Thank you, Mark, on behalf of everyone. And thank you to LBC tonight, who set up an awesome chat with Brian. And we're going to try to do more of that kind of stuff for you guys too. Because we love having a chance to really bring in folks who know what's going on in the conference, can give us new answers and new perspectives. We spent a lot of time tonight on CU for a couple reasons. One, Coach Prime is news, and that's what it is. But two, guys, this is a great school of history. This is a great school of tradition, and it's a great school of promise. And they've had since they came into the Pac-12, they've had just such a rough time. And what I think is exciting about it, we look at these characters here on the screen, and these guys are epic folks from football history, and their buffs are back. And we see really why it was so important to the Pac-12 that this was the school we wanted. This was the number one school that the Pac-12 wanted to add. And in fact, if you go back and actually look at the history, Utah actually secretly negotiated on behalf of Colorado and Utah so that Utah could get their in on expansion. It's actually a really cool story. We're going to tell it another time, and it's really cool. But Colorado is back, and it means a lot to all of us. And I would encourage everybody to celebrate this. Celebrate the excitement that Deion Sanders can bring to Colorado. That's going to bring more students, more applications, more donors, more excitement to the whole state. Celebrate the fact that Colorado, guys, and I'm going to have a moment here, and I'm not being political, talking about something important. 70% of college football players are African American. We need more black football coaches. And Deion Sanders is one hell of a football coach, and you're darn well believe he's earned this shot, and I think he's going to hit a home run. So I can't be more excited about this hire for what it means for the conference, what it means for all my Buffalo friends, what it means for CU, and what it means for the next stage of the history of college football. Thank you guys for spending the night with us. It's been a lot of fun. And I'm going to tell you guys something. Maybe, this is one last little extra piece. Maybe something will happen on Saturday night that is of interest for USC. And should that happen, we just, again, whatever that might be, we may be bringing you a special episode of USC Postgame Live on Saturday night here on the Voice of College Football channel. Thank you to everybody. 8-13 and fight on.